Hi, if you're watching this message right now, it means that you're about to watch between episodes 1 and 23 of my show, Conversations with Atul. Please note that when you'll be watching these first 23 episodes, you will just see a picture of me and a picture of the guest on your screen. That is because the first 23 episodes we never recorded live video. These were audio only episodes meant for Spotify. So what happened was, when I shifted my show to YouTube and started recording video, I felt that my audience should also listen to these first fantastic 23 episodes with some amazing people, great anecdotes, inspiring lives. Like Mukhtar Bhai, who runs a carom club in Thane for the last 35 years. The amazing voiceover artist Nikhil Kapoor, the orchestra man Sudhir Sinha, or the whistler Nagesh Surve. I wanted you to be a part of this experience. One little thing that you will see this message that I've recorded right now before each of the 23 episodes of Conversations with Atul. So, enjoy the conversations and welcome to Conversations with Atul.
Conversations with Atul.
He comes from a family of landlords who were given jagirs by the Maratha king, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. He has spent his childhood on the laps of greats like Kumar Gandharva, who used to hold private mehfils in his house. His father, a renowned writer himself, tried to push him towards cinema, while the rebel in him wished for a career in design. In the first part of my conversation with advertising and film director Ravi Deshpande, we conversed about a Maharashtrian boy's childhood in Telugu land, a warm bond over books with the late Smita Patil, an inferiority complex because of his father's sterling success as a writer, and his own gentle attempts at dismantling patriarchy within his own family. Please welcome Ravi Deshpande, a man who can make films as effectively as he can stitch a blouse. Hi, I'm Atul Taishete, and welcome to my podcast, Conversations with Atul. Hello, everybody, and today I have a very special guest. I have a friend that I have known for quite some time, and his name is Mr. Ravi Deshpande. And the thing about Ravi is that Ravi is almost, I think, there's a pretty decent age gap between us. But what I have realized about Ravi is that when I met him for the first time, and I felt मैं इसको बहुत साल से जानता है. मतलब ये मेरे साथ स्कूल गया है और ये हम लोग दोनों साथ में गोटियां खेले हैं, कंचे खेले, टॉप्स खेले. I don't know. We went to college together. I always get that vibe from Ravi that I have known him for decades. Like I've known him since I was a kid. There's a pretty decent age gap, but it always seems like that whenever I meet Ravi, I always get the feeling that I have known him for a long time. And it's a fact. So I don't know whether it's only innate to me, this kind of a feeling, or it's that Ravi gives that kind of a vibe to almost everybody that he meets, because he is an extremely friendly guy. And he's and he was one of the leading ad film directors in the industry, and now he's trying to make his films and all that. So we'll get to know Ravi now. So hi Ravi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And
hello friends.
And and I've been really looking forward to this for a really long time. So Ravi, you know the format of the show because you've heard episodes, and what we do in this is that we go, like, I believe that what we as a species we are always constantly migrating. Today we have in this country कि यार कौन पहले आया कौन बाद में आया, this nonsense is going on. But generally I feel that all of us are always migrating. We are always moving from, say, my parents moved from Konkan to Bombay and Thana and all that, and your parents, I'm sure, have moved from, whatever little I know is that you moved from all over the place. So let's go back a couple of generations back, and see where is it that you ended up in Bombay and now you're settled in Australia. So ये इधर से उधर कैसे तेरा, what was the journey that happened? So please feel free and please let us start.
First of all, to address your intro, I look older than I am So hence maybe you feel that the age gap is huge.
You look younger than you are. What rubbish are you talking? You're a good-looking young man. I look older than you. दोनों को इसलिए मैं तेरे साथ कहीं जाता नहीं है. एक कौन है तेरा बड़ा भाई पूछेगा मेरे को.
So I am a Deshpande,
Yeah.
and in Shivaji's time we were given a Jagir,
Oh, really?
and we were sent to a village in Andhra Pradesh. In fact, several of those villages have Deshpande'S there.
You go that far back?
Yeah, so we settled there, and there have been generations over the last 350 years. And then my father uh, was a writer.
No, tell me a little about that thing where you went all the way from. Where were you settled otherwise? In Deshavarse, na?
Deshpande, Deshastha Brahman and all that.
Deshastha Brahman. So that is Deshastha is what part of Maharashtra right now?
Maharashtra.
Yeah, but
Which
what-
part?
Which
Pune.
part? Pune. So you're from Pune.
Yeah.
And from Pune you were given Jagirs during Shivaji's time.
So we were
But you know
Jagirdars.
what? You were Jagirdars, but why were you given this Jagir? Matlab, you fought for him or?
To manage that particular ilaka, that ilaka of several villages. So that is what we were doing there. So there are temples and there are Deshpandes who are Pandits there, Bhattis there.
In that village in Andhra
Yeah,
even
those,
today.
those villages, yeah.
Which
So-
part of Andhra is this?
This is about 80 kilometers from Hyderabad. Hyderabad being the capital of Andhra Pradesh.
Wow.
And so we had a lot of land, and I've seen that in my childhood. Acres and acres of land. And slowly that land sort of.
But that land
withered.
was there for the last 300, 350 years, 400 years.
Over the generations, a lot of land got depleted because it
And
got sold
divided
off.
also.
Divided, sold off, litigations and whatnot, and family feuds, so on and so forth. And then what I have seen is close to 150 acres in my childhood.
Which you had, your family, your
Yeah.
immediate family.
Yeah, entire family had, which slowly then weaned away, and now we have nothing left except a vada there.
But you have a vada.
Yeah.
I had no idea about all this. Baap re
So
baap.
what used to happen, because I don't know much about my family's history because I have not delved so much into it. But what I do remember is every summer holidays, we kids from all corners of India, as migrants of course, like you mentioned, would take trains and buses and travel to this place called Kohir in Hyderabad, and we would have a jolly good time for the entire span of the summer holidays. So that's, I'm talking about 25 to 30 kids and their parents. And that vada would house all of us.
Baap re. How big is this vada?
It's a sizably normal vada size. So it was big vada. And it would house us. And there was a farm close by, about 1.5 kilometers away. So which is called Jakkal Baudi. Baudi is a well.
Yeah.
So, and there we would all assemble, and it was a riot every day. Every day was a great riot. So that's my memory of the.
No, but now let's quickly go back to your father and your grandfather, if you can. I mean, what do you remember about your grandparents?
I was not witness to my grandfather,
Okay.
but I was witness to my
Why is
father's
that?
brothers because he passed away by then.
He had passed away.
Yeah. So my father was the youngest of the lot, and there were 2 brothers that I remember distinctly, and then cousins of my father. Those I remember distinctly, and my own generation I remember distinctly. Somebody
They
was
were all settled in Andhra.
No. This is one family which remained in Andhra, which is the eldest brother of my father. The rest of them were all over India. So that's.
So where was your father?
My father joined the labor force. So I was born in Hyderabad, then he was doing a job in Bombay. So then we shifted to Bombay. And from Bombay, he was deputed to the ONGC in Vadodara. So then we lived in Vadodara. And then I had some health problems, so we shifted to Pune. And ever since I've done my schooling, college, etc., FTI in Pune.
Oh, what does your father tell you about the how did he shift out from that place in that village in Andhra? I mean, what did he ever talk
See, my
about
father
that?
was very, very ill when he was in Ferguson College, and
So from Andhra, he went to Ferguson College to
yeah,
study.
yeah, and English literature and arts. So he fell sick. He had jaundice, and so then the doctor advised him, "You go back home." So there was a doctor in attendance, and he stayed in the Wada for close to 2 years. And then, so there were a lot of books of his then there. I have finished the entire George Bernard Shaw when I was ill in Kohir in my village. Just lie down and open that book, the big volume like that, and it would be very smelly because it was lying there for some 20 years.
It had never been opened for 20 years.
No, not been. But it was there. It's like a library. मैं गोठा असतो ना आपला मागचा बॅकयार्ड मध्ये
Backyard where the cows are kept. Gota is place where the cows are kept.
काऊज केप काऊज आणि शीप आणि गोट्स अँड वॉट नॉट तिकडे गोठ्याला लागून इन्स्टेड ऑफ अ तबेला दोज रूम्स वे कन्वर्टेड इन टू ॲक्च्युअल रूम्स त्यातली वन रूम वॉज हिज लायब्ररी सो देर आर सम 1,500 books there from the time that he spent there. So all those old books, it was great literature to read.
So you're sorry.
So my dad went there and he was sick. And then he had to join because he got into the labor force. He got
What
into
is the labor force? What?
No, he got into the labor department of the government of Maharashtra.
Okay, so he's a government officer.
He retired as a deputy commissioner of Pune,
Oh,
labor commissioner. So anyway, so he was posted in Nagpur then. And so a cousin was called in to take care of him. She came from Karnataka, a cousin far removed. Okay, not a direct cousin, but far removed. That is my mother. So he taught in Nagpur. They used to stay in a place which was अफॉरेस्टेड आणि मग तिकडे त्यांनी आईला लिहायला आणि वाचायला शिकवलं मराठी बिकॉज शी न्यू कन्नडा बट शी डिडंट नो मराठी मग आमच्याकडे एक असं पोथी असते ना सरकारी पोथी
अच्छा.
त्या पोथीत प्रेमपत्र
Love letters written by your father to your mother.
तिकडे राहताना नागपूरमध्ये आणि मुंबई
In what language?
मराठी
Marathi mein.
हो फादर स्टडीड उर्दू इंग्लिश अँड मराठी
Wow.
But in the freedom struggle, he was.
But your mother did not know Marathi, right?
No, she knew how to speak, but she didn't know how to write and read. So he
Okay.
taught her. And so I have two sisters. So we have, at some point of time or the other, we've read all those letters. Beautiful letters. So my father was.
But your mother was still staying there because she came to look after him, right?
Correct, to Nagpur.
Like a nurse.
Yeah, like a nurse, like a companion.
Like earlier, that used to happen. That
Yeah,
we used to get like
yeah.
I had somebody like that.
हाँ.
Then we got her married off. We got her everything done.
की ह्याची काळजी घे पण ह्याची काळजी घ्यायच्या ऐवजी ह्याच्या दोघंही प्रेमात पडले एकमेकांच्या
Okay.
आणि मग लगेचच लग्न झालं म्हणजे असं खूप काळ नव्हतं दीर्घच काळ होता आणि तिथे त्या माय मदर लव्ज ॲनिमल्स मग तिथे नागपूरमध्ये त्या फॉरेस्टमधनं अजगर मग आमच्याकडे फोटोग्राफ्स आहेत ब्लॅक अँड व्हाईट की अजगर पॅन्थरचं पिल्लू मग असे सगळं तिच्याकडे प्राणी होते
Wow. So there was like a kind of a zoo in
हो,
your
ती
house.
पाळायची आणि मग परत त्या झूला देऊन टाकायची आणि ती फार प्रेमळ होती त्यामुळे तिला दुःख व्हायचं ती
So this is like that. Who's that guy? Baba.
बाबा आमटे
Baba Amte, no? He also is a similar story.
Yeah. So my father when he was in Ferguson College, even before that, he loved classical music. So he started writing on classical music. So one of his first
Like reviewing classical music?
yeah, like a classical music critic.
Oh,
There
wow.
were very few classical music critics. त्यांचं पहिलं आर्टिकल होतं भीमसेन जोशींवर, वेन ही वॉज सम 17 or 18 years old. तर असं करून ते कॉलेजमध्ये किस्से आहेत की त्यांनी समजा ऐकलं की बेगम अख्तरचं गाणं आहे, दे हॅव गॉन ऑल द वे अक्रॉस इन टू पाकिस्तान टू लिसन टू बेगम अख्तरचं सॉन्ग अँड कम बॅक इफ शी वॉज परफॉर्मिंग देअर और सम आर्टिस्ट वॉज परफॉर्मिंग देअर बाय ट्रेन.
Because it was undivided India then.
या
But these took all the way from Pune,
या टेक द ट्रेन,
the
चेंज
train.
ट्रेन्स अँड ऑल दॅट अँड सेव्ह अप मनी टू डू दॅट.
go to Lahore.
अँड लाहोर हां, आणि तिकडे आणि ऑल दिस मनी वॉज व्हेरी लिटल बिकॉज त्यांना मोठा जो भाऊ होता तो ते पैसे पाठवायचा कॉलेजसाठी.
Ah.
मग ते गुडलकची देणी, लकीची देणी.
Good Luck and Lucky are iconic restaurants in Pune.
Yeah.
I think one of them has shut down now, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
But I think they're iconic restaurants. Good Luck has shut down, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. One of them I think has shut down.
Yeah.
But the thing is that they're iconic restaurants. The reason they were iconic is because when we were in FTI and if we needed to eat at around about 3 o'clock in the night, you could always go to Good Luck. I mean, it's on near the Ferguson College, that Deccan Ka Chowk.
Yeah.
So it's close to that.
Yeah.
And very close from FTI actually. And that is what we used to do. So these are, I think that's what he's saying is that is about Good Luck. And when he says, when Ravi is talking about Good Luck, and just to give reference, and Lucky is mentioning those restaurants.
Correct.
Yeah. So Good Luck Chi Deni means like loans that Good Luck and all that were there. at
So
those
they used to pile up.
They used to pile up because these guys used to go all the way to Pakistan to
Or
listen to.
Lucknowla, this is the Lucknowla, and those times the trains were not as fast as today. You know.
Not as fast, not as many also.
Yeah, so it used to take 2 days, 2.5 days, 3 days to travel from here to anywhere in the north. ते असे सगळे प्रकार करायचे. तर तिकडे त्यांचे जे मित्र झाले ते आता त्या मित्रांची मुलं देखील माझे मित्र आहेत अजूनही लहानपणापासून
really?
आत्तापर्यंत. हो.
So they used to go, what you're saying is they used to go all the way from Pune to say if he has to review a Begum Akhtar song or a
Not
Begum,
just review. It was for the love of classical music and it was for the love of these artists. So later, when I was 5 or 6 years old, when we were in Bandra government colony, on Sunday, there used to be a group. That group was Azun. It was called Azun, which was filled with painters, writers. Dalal was one of the painters then. And every Sunday there would be a mahfil of.
when you were a kid, you have seen all this.
Yeah, I've sat on their laps as a child. And I remember, so I can recognize a sur or I can recognize a classical music artist. My kaan tayar zalai. But I could never become a musician.
No, not
So I
necessarily.
admire all
everybody.
these performers. तर दर रविवारी आणि मग आई जेवण बनवायची, मग सगळेजण खाली जाऊन गच्चीत हे व्हायचं आणि मग खाली जाऊन मग जेवण आणि सतत पूर्ण वेळ म्हणजे संगीत संपल्यानंतर गप्पा टप्पा आणि त्या कुठल्याही विषयावर गप्पा टप्पा असतात त्यांच्या. पण त्या गप्पा टप्पा ऐकल्यानंतर आणि एवढी पुस्तकं वाचल्यानंतर I felt throughout my childhood I felt alienated from the rest of the kids.
Right, because you became a little precocious, right? I mean, you became more matured for your age.
Yeah. Or maybe I just got used to that kind of a company. And the doors of my house, like the doors of the village, are always open till 10:30, 11:30.
This Bandra Colony house.
Bandra Colony house, all my houses, even today, my mother's house, people visit it till 11 o'clock in the night.
Wow.
तर इट्स ओपन हाऊस आणि आलेल्याला आदरातिथ्य, आलेल्याला काही ना काहीतरी एवढं खाऊन जा. दॅट इज द ट्रेडिशन, दॅट इज द नॉर्म.
But that is also the generation, na, Ravi, because I'll tell you what used to happen in our house, for example, is that people used to just land up from Gaon.
Yeah.
because there were no phones, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
There were no phones, there was nothing. So people would just land up at home at whatever, and like we used to stay in this 250, 300 square feet houses. और उसमें एक पाँच चार लोग आ गए गाँव से. So there were like 10, 12 of you staying in that small, like 200, 250, 300 square feet के घर पे कोई पलंग के नीचे सोया है. All that used to happen, and
हो, सतरंजी घालून झोपलेले.
बरोबर.
So these cousins of mine, then sometime we used to call him Bhau. My dad, we used to call him Bhau. So Bhau introduced classical music to the whole family. So these cousins of mine would come from Kohir and they would carry sacks of grain, sacks of rice on the ST bus, overnight journey.
Yeah.
And a Guracha Dhepi. And they would come for the Savai Gandhara festival
Oh, really?
for the entire 10 days.
They were that kind of connoisseurs.
Yeah.
मतलब वो जागीरदारी गई नहीं उनके अंदर से basically. That's what it means.
And because my father used to write an article in the Savai Gandhara Punyatithi, I've kept some of them still. My sister has maintained all that, a record of what all he used to do. So what happened is, through college, he made a lot of friends. When he came to Bombay, he moved around with other writers. So he had a large friend circle. Up until his death, even my friends were his friends. So without me, after I shifted to Bombay, they would regularly go and visit him and sit and chat with him. So that was the kind of guy he was. He was a chatty fellow and extremely well read, so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So he could switch to what that person was all about. He broke a lot of traditions in our family. For example, non-veg.
Vegetarians hardcore.
Deshpande'S are Brahmins, no? त्यामुळे काही
yeah.
घरात मांस मच्छी वगैरे नाही.
But your mother?
Yeah, same thing. She was a poddar. So she's also no machi, maas. So he introduced my cousins, all the young chaps, to all this. The drinks and the maas machi. And
So it was a good influence in their lives.
absolutely, because he introduced books to them, he introduced classical music to them, and he told them to ask questions.
Right.
So
Right.
So for me also, he was more a friend till a point of time when, till teenage happened to me. So he was an interesting fellow, my father. So because he was brought up in Kohir and Hyderabad, so he saw Mughlai from close quarters. So he wrote two books, which is Vah Mughlai and Hai Mughlai, which are kissas, little kissas from the village, from Hyderabad, but all to do with Mughlai and with the people of Andhra Pradesh. They're interesting books. He didn't write very
What do
many
you
books.
mean by Mughlai? I mean, what do you mean by that?
See, the rulers of Hyderabad state, it used to be called the Hyderabad state.
Right.
So the rulers were always Muslim Nawabs.
Right.
So Nawabi and so they are the Mughals. So from Mughals, the word Mughlai came in Marathi. There are a lot of Persian and Urdu words which have come into the Marathi language. So this is one of the words, Mughlai. So that is why the title of the books were Hai Mughlai and Vah Mughlai. And what is Mughlai all about? What is that, like we say in मराठी आपण म्हणतो की शहाण्णव कोळी आहे किंवा हा पाटील आहे किंवा हा सरदेसाई आहे. सो लाईक दॅट व्हॉट इज मोगलाई? इट्स अ वे ऑफ लाईफ. इट्स अ वे ऑफ शोईंग युअर रोब, विच इफ आय एक्सप्लेन टू यू क्लिशेडली, इट इज की मोगऱ्याचा हे हनुवटीला घालून आणि
गाणं ऐकणं.
हां दंड लावून बसणे आणि
Mughlai. And it's Jagirdari also, no? There's
Same
landlordism also. I mean, it's
Yeah,
all
so
feudal. The whole feudal structure, you mean to say?
Yeah, so he wrote about that, but he wrote with a tinge of sarcasm. It was not really satire, but it was so he called himself Cynic. See, he wrote under the pseudonym Cynic.
The pseudonym was Cynic.
Yeah,
Scynic.
yeah. He was a cynic.
And the stories were sarcastic.
Yeah. And they were
Wow.
descriptive. And all these stories are from real life.
Wow.
And we've seen these characters. you know. So,
But what kind of
fascinating.
stories were these? I mean, if you can give me an example of a story, I mean, just for me to understand, for us to understand what it is about, like.
Okay, so let's say in the village we had an accountant who used to write accounts and maintain the accounts, which is what happened to this money and why was it spent, right? Because you have a jagirdari and you have you have a farm and you have produce, so you sell it and you earn it and all that. So Narsimlu, his name was Narsimlu, yeah, he was the accountant. So I still remember one summer.
This is a
afternoon-
story which is there in the book.
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
of course, written much more beautifully than I'm narrating.
Yeah, of course. I mean, no. I mean, maybe, maybe of course बोल रहे हैं. पढ़ा नहीं कुछ नहीं.
So Narsimlu accounts were,
Narsimlu is an accountant in that village.
yeah.
Okay.
And he's been handling it for 10, 12, 15 years. He's been there. And he started to grey and all that. So my uncle says ki yaar gadbad hai kuch. Because this thing doesn't match. The amount of produce that we sold, that we should be having so much of money left. Where has it gone? So Narasimha was called in ki Baba, show me the book of accounts. So we were there for the summer holidays. So we opened the book and my father started laughing. And the laugh reverberated through the whole Vada because there were only two columns. This much amount diya, this much amount liya. But for what? What is the explanation to that? Is there a bill? Is there a receipt? Is there a raseed? Nothing. Liya diya, liya diya. So this is one of the
There were no
kisses.
notes on it. Notes
No.
on what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
money
yeah,
was
yeah.
for.
And then there was a
So was it taking?
no, he
it was
wasn't.
not.
He was an innocent guy. So there is a description of how Narsimlu was and what kind of a beautiful human being he was,
Okay.
and how yet he made mistakes. But there is a huge amount of trust. No, in those times there used to be a
Right.
huge amount of trust, and so there were all sorts of gaflas. Or there is another kissa. My father opened the doors to the so-called backward classes. So there was a Harijan, beautiful dark man from another village who used to sell croutons. Croutons are a variety which is
Toast.
no colorful plants.
Okay. Okay.
And he used to he used to come and plant coconuts.
Okay.
And he was South Indian and he used to smoke chiroots.
Okay.
And those chiroots were really bloody strong. And my mother used to hate it when he used to come and stay with us in Pune. Okay, Alasattar Raju, his name was Alasattar Raju.
Ala Sattar Raju. That was his name. Why was his name like this? Or it was just.
Yeah, it was named like that.
अच्छा उधर होता है ऐसा नाम.
And so once I also remember he came to the Pune
Chirut
house.
is how is a chirut made? Actually, it's with leaf made डाल के वो लोग
Yeah,
सीधा-
yeah.
So it's a very lots of tobacco and it's almost
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
cigar actually.
Yeah. But a crude version of a cigar.
Cigar.
And it smells, man.
It smells.
And far and wide. It's almost like making sukkat at home. You know
Making
how the
sukkat.
Sukkat. the
Like
smell-
in Mud Island, and they say कि summer में सब हमको सिर्फ fish का बाज आता है वैसा.
Yeah.
Ah.
So then Alasattar Raju used to come and stay. Now, that was unheard of. That was anathema. How can a Harijan come and stay in the house? So he was most welcome. So he used to come.
This was in what year? I mean, like a few.
Man, I'm 59 now. So I'm talking about 50 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. And then when he came to the Pune house,
70s, early 70s.
yeah, when he used to come to the Pune house, and I remember
And this he used to do in your house in Pune or in
Kohir, he used to
in
come.
Kohir he used to do it, where it was a very conservative kind of a.
Yeah. So he
And your father was like, "आ जाओ घर पे."
absolutely not just that, chicken banao. So then all the bhainis, that is the sister-in-laws and kakus, which is aunts, had told him ki not in the house, you make your chicken outside. And all of us kids would be straight. Imagine 25 kids salivating ki when that chicken
Sattar Raju will come.
Allah Sattar Raju used to cook it.
Allah Sattar, and find a name itself fascinating, boss. Forget the man.
So the thing was that he was a devotee of Meher Baba.
Okay.
So that's how uh, we youngsters were introduced to Meher Baba. And then, of course, father bought books of Meher Baba. And father had other friends who were Meher Baba Bhakts. So,
So you are a Meher Baba Bhakt?
no, I was not a Bhakt, I was an avid reader.
Okay.
So, anyway, so Alasatha Raju, the one incident that comes to my mind is Alasatha Raju came to Pune and he could not speak Hindi, he could not speak Marathi. He would speak Telugu. So Alasatha Raju came and we bought a new record player, Pushka plastic record player, father and bought. And he was playing a Sehgal record that day. He
Who? Your father?
was playing a KL Sehgal record. And this huge man with his chirut, started to sob.
On listening to Sehgal.
He didn't know what the words were.
Wow.
And he started to sob profusely and his whole body
Wow.
started shaking.
Wow.
And for the first time, because mother would shut the kitchen door and everything when he started smoking chirut. But he was allowed to smoke chirut in the house because father would say, let him be what he is. And she came out concerned. She got a glass of water. She said, what do you want? Shall I give you something? She just gestured because he won't understand anything, any other language. And he loved that record. And he loved that music. And so he didn't know Hindi at all. And yet it moved him so much. So that was another. So kissas like that form.
This is an amazing kissa, no?
Yeah.
This reminds me of this scene in the Shawshank Redemption. You remember? When
When
he goes inside and he in the warden's cabin and he starts playing that song
Yeah.
where the Italian women are singing opera. And there's a line by Red or Morgan Freeman in that which says that I have no idea what the women were singing.
Yeah.
But for that one moment, it felt like all of us were free.
Correct.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
One would. That's what I find amazing about this. What I find amazing about my own podcast is that I find stories which I can't write in a screenplay.
Yeah.
I find the kind of stories which people tell me, and I said, अगर यही situation मेरे को अगर screenplay में आता है, तो मैं ये solution नहीं लेता because मैं बोलता ये होता ही नहीं है. It happens. So this is a fantastic story of this guy just sobbing. Bass, just listening to some music who is not really very well educated either, right?
Yeah. He's not educated at all. Second standard or third standard, something like that, or fourth standard.
Nothing. So just the music moved him to that KL Sehgal record moved him. Wow. Any other stories? This is fascinating. You remember any other story?
My life is filled with stories of childhood and the time we spent in Pune and Vadodara.
No, the stories from that book.
From that book. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
Many more, but these are the kind of what is Mughlai all about?
Yeah.
And there is something about Mughlai which is Va Mughlai, and there is something which is High Mughlai.
Reprehensible. That is not. Really
Which is
superb. So those books are still there.
Yeah, the books are still there. Then there is something called Cynic Katha. Cynic Tha, it was called. Cynic Tha. And then there was another book called Plus Cynic Tha. More stories. So 4-5 books is what he wrote in his life. And loads of friends. So the ethos at home was such that if you ask me what is art, I won't be able to explain. But it was
all around you.
It
all around. It
pervaded,
was,
yeah.
It was all around you. It was just, within your family, within your father,
Yeah,
within his friends.
yeah.
Wow.
It was beautiful. So, I've been brought up by one of his friends who's a painter, Subhash Avzad. So, I've learned proportionately from watching him paint in his studio, as I have learned uh, from FTI or from my father. So, I mean, I'm grateful to all this for what I am and for what I am not.
Brought by him, matlab kyun? Matlab why you lived with him?
It wasn't like that. I would go anytime on my cycle to his studio and watch him paint because I used to love watching him paint.
So
Where
like a
does the
mentor to
painting?
you?
He was like a mentor. Or he would come and shout out. We used to live on the first floor in Queen's Gardens in Pune. So he would shout out, Gundia. So I would go running to the gallery. Say, Chal. Sit on his motorcycle. And then there were no mobile phones. So he would say, shall we go to the hills or shall we go somewhere else? So then we would land up at Pasgani or Kolhapur or
On a
wherever.
bike.
Yeah, and then call mom and say, Amma, मी मुंबईला पोचलोय किंवा मी पाचगणीला आलोय. आणि मी 2 दिवसानंतर, after 2 days, I'll come back. You know. So it was
From Pune, right? Or from Bombay?
from Pune. When we
Pune
stayed-
used to just land up in Panchgani and Mahabaleshwar.
through my
and-
school and through my college, he would just pick me up and take me. Like when then his friend was Smita Patil. So then Smita became a friend of mine. And then when Smita saw me reading our films, their films, and she was doing Sadgati, so she came, she said, Chal Gundia. And she took me to Nagpur, Raipur, sorry, for the shoot. So I watched the entire shoot.
Of Sadgati.
So Manikda said ki, she was telling Manikda, he's in love with you. So Manikda said, no, he's in love with you.
But who are you in love with? That you can tell us today. Actually in love with.
That is their film, not my film. So like that. So she also she introduced me to a lot of authors. Like she introduced me to Kawabata.
Smita Patil.
Yeah, to Salinger, J.D. Salinger. She was a very well read. Her father also used to constantly have a novel in his hand. He was a politician, but he would always have
Her father was the home minister, right? I mean, what?
some minister, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But he used to always have so even later at airports when I used to meet him, he would have a novel in his hand. So books were there, always there in her purse, in her bag, in her chola, in her car, everywhere, in her hotel rooms and all that. So she introduced me to some wonderful authors from around the world. So anyways, so to come back to this story of my father's journey, so when we shifted from Vadodara to Pune because I could not stand the weather in Vadodara.
How old were you?
I finished my first, second, third in Vadodara.
6-7 years old.
Yeah, and so I had rheumatism. So the doctor suggested that we go to a cooler place.
Okay.
So then we shifted to Pune. And my sister was in SNDT. She was pursuing home science. And my other sister was in the same class as me. So from 5th standard to college, we were together. She's older than me by 2 years. So we still have a beautiful relationship. Not that I don't have a beautiful relationship with my elder sister. But
No, but of course, because you were like same, all in the same class, same friends, same teachers, you can bitch about the same people. So obviously the relationship is different then.
yeah.
So why would she, like 2 years elder and she was in your class? What?
She had a stomach problem, so she lost out on 2 years. So hence. So we used to walk to school together.
Yeah, that's amazing, no?
Yeah, so I used to use her cycle, which was a lady cycle.
Ladies cycle matlab आगे का डंडा नहीं होता.
Correct.
That's the difference. I mean, for people who don't know, nowadays, so women wear jeans and everything, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But then girls used to wear saris or whatever, so that that bar was not there. That's
Yeah.
what it was called, a ladies cycle.
Yeah.
So tell me a little more. I mean, I'm very fascinated by your dad, actually. I mean, if you can tell me a little more about him, I think we can do your thing some other day.
He was a shaukin. So he loved fur caps. So he used to wear a fur cap.
Fur caps.
Like a Nawab, the Nawab caps which are there.
Like it's just in Marathi films with Yashwant Chavan and all wearing.
Correct.
Am I
Like
right?
Gandhi topi, but Gandhi topi with fur on it.
Yeah, then it's not a Gandhi topi if it has fur on it.
So he had that, and he used to love wearing his three-piece suits. So he's quite an Angrez at that, but then he hated the British. And he hated because he fought in the freedom struggle. And they bet him till he went unconscious. And he was hung for 2 or 3 days and he was beaten. He was whipped by the British. And that is the time that he took an oath and said, I will not use English. I will not write in English. And that's when he veered towards Marathi writing. He took a pledge that he will not write professionally in English.
Wow. How did this happen? I mean, I understand there's no structure to this, of course, but I'm saying that can you just put it in a kind of a timeline, your dad's life? Like, no, I'm serious because, it's a very fascinating journey, by itself. That he was not well and then this woman came and then they got married and then he was still working, and then when did he get into the freedom struggle? Before his marriage or after his marriage or what?
No, he was born in 1925. So he married quite
By the time
late.
he's 22.
Yeah. So he married quite late because then he fell sick. And so his studies also, there were tutors who came to teach him, like there were beds who treated him for his health in the village. So there were tutors who were called in from Hyderabad to teach him, who used to also stay in the Vada. So he's had a very tumultuous, colorful life. And he was also here in Bombay as the chairman of Mathadi board.
Mathadi Kamgar.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because they're laborers. Mathadis are laborers. Right.
So to put it into a timeline, that is what happened. Then he went to Ferguson. And after that, in between, he fell sick. And then he was treated again. Then he found a job because they said you must do a job. And he wanted to shift out of, though he loved Coher and he loved to go back there. Like we would, as children, when we were from Vadodara, when we would start to go to, we would change trains because we would come to Bombay first. And from Bombay, there was a Hyderabad Express. And we would land on Nampally station, which is the Hyderabad main station in those times. And we would wait eagerly. When will, at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we used to land at the station. And we would wait eagerly because unless, like he said, Mukhshuddhi झाली म्हणजे संपलं. Then I have landed in my land, which is Nammanad, Andhra Pradesh. So, which is what? Till that Hamal comes, the coolie comes to pick up the luggage. And till he says Makke
That is Mukha Shuddhi.
which is
What is
Makke Lode. And we used to all wait. Abhi ho gaya. But it is said so affectionately that it is not a gali.
Yeah, of course. I'm a Malvani, I mean, my parents. So I understand this completely. So it's like, particularly in Malvani, you always, there's a lot of abuse, but it can be used as an abuse and it can be used affectionately. I mean, it is a whole range. It's not unlike, say.
So there's a book, beautiful book, Elias Canetti's autobiography. The title of the book is so fantastic. It's called A Tongue Set Free. Now, he and his mother traveled 6 cities and some 2 countries or 3 countries. And he describes that. He says, till I used to wait to touch the street and listen to the language on the street. And the Galis, of course.
Right.
And so he could follow a lot of European languages because of that. And that was one of the reasons that he became a writer, thinker, philosopher, intellectual. And that was the case with my father. So all this that he picked up from, let's say, the Hamal, the coolie, or people like his accountant, all formed his subject matter. And that is what he wrote about.
Right.
And of course, music. So music has been a huge part of my life. And when I came to Pune, then I found a friend in my fifth standard called Apu Bahadur, who's still my buddy. I'm going to meet him this Friday. Who was coincidentally Satish Bahadur's son.
So
we
Satish
had-
Bahadur's son.
named after the Apu trilogy. So, poor chap. So he's still my best friend. So we had access to FTI. So
Yeah, of course.
we used to go on a cycle and watch the films on Sunday, which is the Disney movies would be played for the staff ka children. From that,
Oh, really? That used to happen.
yeah, and from that to world cinema happened to me without an effort through my childhood. From
Oh,
fifth
wow.
standard to the time I went to college.
So used to go and watch world cinema.
We used to go and just sit. We used to park our cycles and sit in the main theater and say, अभी क्या चल रहा है? अच्छा, what language is this must be? We didn't know anything. We couldn't follow anything. But the film spoke to us.
It spoke to you.
Yeah, because when I read Bergman on Bergman and Brecht on Brecht and so on and so forth, that entire series which is there of Phaidon and Penguin. And so when I read that, I said, I've interpreted this from my own point of view.
When you were like 15 years old, 14 years old.
No, I'm talking about 5th standard to 10th
Yeah,
standard.
so that is like 10 to 15. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So,
I don't believe you. Yeah. When I was 10, and when I was like 13 years old, I was looking at Deshpande'S.
so that also
And
happened.
if I was going to sit in those screenings of world cinema, I know exactly why I'm sitting there. So I find all this extremely difficult to believe. But
No, I
believe
was
you.
exposed to, not Deshpande'S, but I was exposed straight to porn in my 6th standard. I still remember there was a boy who had come, he was elder to us, who had come from some foreign country. I don't remember which foreign country. And he had photographic magazines, small size, huh?
I know, yeah.
Which was all porn, not even Playboy. And it wasn't shocking. People say, "Arey, this is shocking for children." It wasn't shocking because we saw it and we said, "Acha, aisa hota hai kya?" Then there's another kissa with father. I found a porn book in the books which were there. There was Lady Chatterley's Lover and all, but you don't call that porn. So I found a correct actual porn literature in my dad's collection, and I was reading that. And we used to have a gallery in our bungalow where we rented a bungalow on Prabhat Road. So I used to lie there and I would read, and I was still in my shorts and all that, Again, 6th standard or 5th standard or something.
Reading that porn book.
But
not reading it as porn.
But I realized that because I would get hard and all that. So my eldest sister came back one day from college and she told my father that he's reading porn. So my father said, so let him read it. No? He will recognize porn for what it is.
Right.
And he'll differentiate it from the other books which are there in that shelf.
Right. No, that's a very matured approach to this rather than treat it like some kind of sin and evil, which is pretty stupid, I think.
It's a part of life. Sex is a part of life.
Yeah. But I should tell you a story here, which is there in my other thing also. That when we were in, because you will find it very funny, that's why. When we were in school, I had this friend whom I'll not name because I think he has children now whom I can. So, very good friends, and both of us. And तभी ना क्या होता था? तभी ना रद्दी वाला होता था. Okay, I don't know. I'm sure you remember all this.
Yeah, of course.
तभी रद्दी वाला होता था. रद्दी वाले के इधर ना ऐसा ये Demonar is all adult magazines and Sports Week भी लगा हुआ है.
Yeah.
You know, Demonar भी लगा हुआ है, India Today भी लगा हुआ है, Illustrated Weekly लगा हुआ है, and you can go and buy these second-hand things for like maybe 25% of the price, like a year old and all that. So debonair bhi laga hua hai. Now this debonair to buy used to cost 2 rupees. I remember the exact price also. Used to say 2 rupees to buy. So my friend told him, हमको खरीदने का नहीं है, भाड़े पे देगा क्या? So he thought about it. He said, okay, लेकिन तुमको 2 रुपया डिपॉजिट रखना पड़ेगा, which is the price of the debonair. So 2 रुपया डिपॉजिट रखो और 50 पैसा लेगा और तुम बाद में आएगा तो I will give you that 1 rupee and 50 paisa back. That's what he said. So my friend, I otherwise he had no money also because there was a struggle at home also in his life. So वो अपना 2 रुपया लेके उसको दिया और वो लेके गया, ठीक है. एंड देन माई फ्रेंड रियलाइज्ड, अरे अभी इसमें 8 फोटो है, अगर इसमें का मैं 2 काट देगा तो उसको क्या समझने वाला है. तो 2 फोटो काट देता था. एंड दैट बिकेम अ रिचुअल विथ हिम. व्हाट ही यूज्ड टू डू वाज is to go to this रद्दी वाला, भाड़े पे लेता था, 8-10 फोटो होता था उसमें. So he used to cut 2-3 photographs and it is whole collection. By the time we were in college, he had a complete file and he used to stay in a 200 square feet house. He had 2 sisters in the house. ये सब था, but कहीं पे तो ऊपर डाल देता था वो कि किसी को मिले नहीं. ये सब जुगाड़. I mean that generation used to do.
So I have another kissa with a Raddi wala only, but not a Raddi shop. It was a proper shop in a lane called Hong Kong Lane in Deccan.
Okay.
That lane was filled with shops for women's jewelry and necklaces and all that. And there was this pervy guy who had the shop, but he had all the good comic books.
He was an Arabi.
No, he was a pervert. And he had all these fantastic comic books, which are the war comics. And he had the whole of Indrajal, and he had the whole of Phantom. And it was all on to lend. And when we were looking at that, he slipped in one of these pawn booklets into our hand. That's okay. So we used to take that also, Apu and me. Then we heard that he exposed himself to another boy, and the parents came to know of it in the shop. Now the shop is not there. I don't know why it was called Hong Kong Lane. But Deccan Gymkhana bus stop के opposite एक theatre था. Theatre को लग के ये गली था, Hong Kong Lane. And he was quite famous. Anybody my age from Pune will know that guy.
Wow. And he had exposed himself
To this other boy.
Baapre.
And it spread like wildfire in the school. And so then, from that moment onward, we didn't go to him.
Wow. So, your father, then he shifted to, come to his. You were telling me about that his friends, and whose laps he used to sit on, and their children are still friends with you.
I was talking about some of the friends, not the great musicians and the singers and all that. The Appa Jalkarkars and the Kumar Gandharvas and
But they also used to come and sing in your house.
Yeah.
Kumar Gandharva and all that.
Yeah.
When they had become Kumar Gandharva and they had become big.
At the same time.
Wow.
But there was a different feeling about artists. There was a different bonhomie. There was a different kind of bonding.
It was not that commercial.
Friendship. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
At that age, you were sitting in their laps and listening to all this music.
More than that, there's another kissa. There's a huge poet, Kannada poet from Dharwad, called D.R. Bendre.
Yeah, of course. I know the name, yeah.
Now, Dr. Bendre would come with a trunk to live in our house in Pune. So, Dr. Bendre's trunk would be empty when he would come. And then he would go to International Book House on Deccan, and that trunk would get filled with books. But what he had was a cube, and a pyramid, and a pendulum. Now these three things were always in his jacket pocket.
A cube, a pyramid, and a pendulum. Always in a jacket.
Always in a jacket. And he used to talk to us, to everybody. He would talk to everybody about every subject, because he was a mathematician, he was a writer, he was a poet. He was And he was he could tell you page 44 of that book of Hungry Stones of Rabindranath Tagore. Open that, in that there is a reference
Wow.
of stones and rock and what Rabindranath Tagore has written. Or it's a Khalil Gibran open page so and so, there is how to manage a marriage. He was brilliant. And he would go into the bathroom for a bath and say, "Nahi, tumi bahar ubha raha na." So you stand outside, na, I'll continue to talk to you.
Are you serious?
Yes. And he would talk, and all that was great
How,
wisdom.
how old were you when, matlab,
Now, through my childhood, he kept coming. Like that, father had a lot of friends.
and you would be inside the bathroom doing whatever, and you would
No,
be talking?
he is inside the bathroom having a bath,
Ah,
and he's continuing to talk to us, and he would say, "Stand outside the door and listen to me."
and I'll tell you more about.
Whatever, under the earth. And he would tell us he believed in the pendulum. So he would say everything is to do with the cube and the pyramid.
Fascinating stories, this, yeah.
So volume, I was exposed to this concept of volume in
Yeah,
space.
yeah,
So
yeah.
space is different and volume is different.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right in my childhood. So whatever little aesthetics I have is because of all this. So there are hazard. So it was great fun growing up. And then Apu and me have hop, skipped and jumped. Apu is a rail fan. Even today, he is part of the rail fanning community of India.
Rail fan as in the Indian Railways.
Yeah.
I know somebody else also, I think he was.
Huh. So Apu and me used to walk tracks, go to Khadki, go here, go there, and look at locomotives. Then we were fascinated with barren landscapes. So we would go either on his Bobby Honda, later on his Bobby Honda, would travel and see barren landscape. We used to climb a hill and just look at that and just sit there, for half an hour. Then we would come back. So we've explored the Vetar Tikri and the Hanuman Tikri, which is behind,
Yeah,
adjacent
behind
to the
FTI.
FTI in our childhood. So I had written a series for the launch of Sahara TV of my childhood called Udanchu, along with Lalit Marathe. That series was part of the launch program, but I could not get along with the financial guys of Sahara TV. So then Jaya ji, who wanted that to be a part of the launch of Sahara TV, had to let go of that. So anyway, so that was those kissas of childhood. So then father retired. Father retired and decided that retirement is retirement. He had a lot of offers from Karve Institute and here and there. And I was coming out of college. And I was completely upset because we'd lived on just the income that father earned from the government and from whatever little used to come from Kohir, from the farm. That was minuscule anyways. So then I could not afford a art education like I wanted. Like I desperately wanted to go to NID. But I wondered how we would be able to afford to pay for that.
Was NID expensive?
Yeah,
But NID is also a government place, right?
correct. But it is more expensive than FDI. And by that time, I had started to design leather pouches and stitch leather and cut leather. Some of my friends have still kept those leather purses, pouches, and folders that I had made. So I wanted to design. I didn't want to be a writer because that was my rebellion.
Against your father.
Because he was a great guy. I was the Nalai child. So I would not stick to anything. So I thought I was interested in mathematics and astrophysics and stuff like that. But no, I wasn't. And father kept on telling me, Ki, you are a storyteller. You go to the FTI.
He kept on telling you.
I said, no, I'm not. Because he said, go to the FTI. I said, no, I'm not going. And I applied. Both of us, me and Apu, both applied to NID. And we failed the entrance. So Apu became an engineer and I became a filmmaker. So, anyways, so father retired, and then I joined FTI.
So we'll come to your thing, But what did your father do after retirement? I want to stick to your father right now,
Yeah.
and then I'll come to you. So I'm saying like because let's finish your father's story because I don't know anybody else who can narrate that story, right? And so
Yeah.
seems like a fascinating man by himself.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that what after he retired, what did he do?
Uh, he just lived very beautifully.
He lived in Pune.
Yeah, yeah. He lived in Pune. We still have the same flat in which he retired, and we started living there. Small flat, small apartment. My sisters by that time were married, both of them, and he started to live a fantastic life with my mom. And he lived to the ripe age till 2018. He was what he used to call as a bhokta. So he would do Shravan, he would partake of music, of art, of literature. He would write in Sadhana Parivar is a big family. Sadhana is a magazine of socialists. Yadunatha Thatte was the editor of that. So he would write in Sadhana. He would write in a newspaper called Marathwada for an editor called Anant Bhale Rao, who is himself a great stalwart from Aurangabad. So he would write for these. They were like editorials. They were like, So he came to be known as an intellectual, and he was a very good speaker. So you give him a mic and he would love it, and he would hold forth on any subject because he was a practice speaker from college to the time that he was deputy labor commissioner to later. So that's what he did. But he retracted from labor. He retracted from becoming. He was offered jobs to handle the Karve Institute, to handle other institutions, corporates, because there was so much of knowledge about labor law that he had, and so much of an experience.
Plus the contacts also, right? I mean,
Yeah, but he said, I want to retire and I want to live Vruddhashram. He said, there are 4 stages of our life that have been defined, and I believe in that. So he retired.
so retired as in when he said I retire. That's it. How it's going to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he used to love his drink, but then later in life, he would only sip at a glass. And that too, everything was very, like I said, he was ते ब्रिटिश होते त्यामुळे ते बरोबर त्यात लिंबाचा तुकडा और मध घालून काहीतरी असं कॉम्बिनेशन करून ही वुड मेक दॅट ड्रिंक फॅन्टॅस्टिक. ही वुड हॅव हिज काजू अँड किशमिश एव्हरी इव्हनिंग इन द मॉर्निंग. अँड ही केप्ट हिमसेल्फ फिट बाय exercising, walking. So that's the life that he led.
Superb.
And he devoted himself to his grandchildren and to his daughters, because I moved out of the house once I passed out, and I married almost immediately after that. And so he would come and stay with me. I used to have a Ganpati at home, so he would come and stay with me. Like I said, my friends were his friends. So all the friends would gather to meet him, to have a dialogue with him. So I would go to my office, the production house that I had, but they would sit down and chat with him.
Wow.
And he would give that time. And like I said, the people of the society or the colony would come and sit with him. And all the houses that we'd rented earlier, he'd formed friends, young friends, in the lanes there. And as they grew old, they kept visiting him. And he kept a tab on each one's career, each one's who had a son and how old is that son, what is he studying and what is he interested in. So he would have a dialogue, what is called as a conversation with youngsters, which is very rare to see.
Amazing, na? What a fantastic life, even otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, So, did you have what you told me earlier? Uh, was there friction between you and him? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and what was that friction? I mean, what was the
Yeah,
reason
it
for that
was.
friction? I mean, of course, in hindsight, it will all seem childish. That's
No,
not
no,
what.
it's not childish at all.
Oh, really?
It is not childish. It was this feeling that I had, I still have it, which is of being inferior,
Being inadequate.
inadequate, because he's such a tall, great personality with so much of life in him. And
So that friction had nothing to do with him. It had to do with your internal
me,
struggle.
yeah. And it's only later when I reached my 30s, late 30s, that I realized that it is the problem lies within me, not with him. But after that, I could not become friends with him. By that time, my sisters became friends with him.
Your sisters also had the same problem?
No, no, no,
No, not at all.
not at all. He was a great support to my sisters, and the sisters in turn were a great support to him. So, so that was a friction. There was an incident that he's the one who took. I used to write poetry at night, listening to music, that record player that we had. And I would put it under the pillow and I would forget about it. So secretly he kept those poems aside. Had a few of them I published. So and I was very angry about that. He came to FTI to my hostel room, and so I had a girlfriend there. So I opened the door ajar a little bit and I peeped out and I told him, I'll just join you 1 second. Next day, there is an article called Gunguru or something like that. I don't remember. So, in Sakar newspaper or Kesri, I don't remember which one, in Pune, the article is a short story about how he visits
His son.
Yeah, and he finds that.
His son is
Was it Payal or something? The title of that story.
So he was cannibalizing on your life. It was amazing.
And then he'd written, "Ki, how do I explain this to Gunda's mother? Ki, this is what I found there."
But what was the tone of that article? I mean, it was curiosity, it was anger,
No, it was affection.
it was affection.
Yeah, it was affection, but I went on the front foot because I
You
felt
construed it as something else.
yeah, at that juncture. And I got very angry and upset.
What did you construe it as? I mean, what did you think when that article came in?
An intrusion into
Your
my
private space.
private space and an interpretation of my private space, which was not valid.
Ah.
That to see that relationship in the way that it should be seen.
How was he seeing the relationship in that article? What was the tone that you remember?
Humor.
It's humor.
Huh.
Okay.
And it was
But was it written as a fictional piece or was it
fiction. All this is fiction
Okay.
that is written. And it hurt me that he wrote it like that. At that juncture, it hurt me. In retrospect, when I read it now, I have a good laugh about it. But it taught me some things. It taught me.
But I think it's pretty stupid to write that. Honestly speaking. I mean, without expecting that your son is not going to react. I mean, I don't think that is not going to happen with most kids. That is going to happen with most kids.
I still remember the room was S3. मतलब चौकीदार के
Yeah, I
कमरे
know.
के दो इसके बाद.
I was on S27,
हाँ.
first floor. So you're on the ground floor.
Yeah. So like that. And then there was a resentment even when I was in FTI. कि how will I do my diploma film? I need money. So what the hell to do? So I had a M50. So I had to.
M50 is a bike. It's
bike,
is a small bike, smaller bike version.
So then I used to think. I was 20 or 19 then, and I was the youngest in the class, and I used to think, why was my father not corrupt? Why did he kick out industrialists from his room or from our doorstep, which I've witnessed, who came with Diwali mithaiyan and a wad of notes. He would turn them away from the door. Why was he not corrupt? Why don't we have money? You know? There was that resentment through college and through because when I was in college, we used to stay in Queen's Gardens, and so a lot of times, if the cycle was not available to me, I didn't have a cycle, so I would take the bus. And when you get down at Pune station and walk to the Queen's Garden, you're passing by these bakeries, and that smell, and when you're hungry.
Yeah, yeah. Pune has some amazing bakeries.
Yeah, so even I spent a lot of time in the British Council rather than in Ferguson College. I used to wait for my sister to come and then take 20 rupees from her and then eat in Vaishali. My money would get over for taxi. so, so then I started throughout college. I felt ki why. So what happened is, so that I could study and my younger sister could study, my eldest sister took a sabbatical from SNDT of a year, so that then we would roll on and then we would have money to pay for her education. He would have money. So all this affected me, this not having money. So that was the resentment, that was the clash with my father.
But I think the clash also seems to be far bigger than just money. It was, I think it was about who you were as an individual,
Yeah.
as compared to who he had already become. I mean, that thing that will I ever be able to match up to what this person is?
Yeah, so there's this great guy called S.M. Joshi, again of the Sadhana Parivar.
What is the Sadhana Parivar?
Sadhana is a magazine of socialists.
Okay.
So there was a S.M. Joshi who came to see my diploma film. And he asked me quite derogatorily, ki, how did you think of this? So I said, काय नाही, हगत बसलो होतो तेव्हा आलं डोक्यात idea, केली. So I was outside the main theatre after he'd seen the film.
You said this deliberetely or because he said it deliberately?
Yeah. So I revolted. So that became an attitude, that became like a skin for me to address elders.
But a lot of FTA people would reply like that.
So when I went to FD Films Division and that Chandra had put his feet up on the table and he was sitting and speaking derogatorily and calling me his son, I said, I'm not your son. So yeah, you have to revolt. All of us revolted when we were treated as kids while we were already adults. So I was telling you that this is that article and the way that it was written by my father also taught me a lesson of how to be, which has helped me in parenting my children.
Right.
Another resentment in me was not that my father didn't love my mother, but ते आपल्याला खटकतं ना behavior की any time in the night, whether it be 9 o'clock or 10:30, he would say, हा मित्र आलेला आहे, आम्ही आलेलो घरी, and she would बिचारी go into the kitchen and cook for them while they make merry. So that's why it's not OCD that I have. It's just that I do all my stuff myself. So all my houses, I've made sure. So when I had my first marriage, so then I said, I've not married because this is not what you taught me.
Not a maid.
This is not. So she's not going to nudo kotimbir. I will do it. I can do it, but don't expect that from her because she's never done it in her life. And we should not expect that from her. So that was the other rebellion that happened with me.
So did it bother him that...
Yes, of course. And it bothered me immensely. And so my attitude towards... I think it was also because of my sisters. So I learned how to stitch. I can run a sewing machine and I can stitch a blouse. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I haven't done it in so many
No,
years.
no, but of course you can. If you can do it, you can do it.
I know how to iron a sari. You know. I know
पूरा
how to.
husband material है मतलब तू पूरा कोशिश कर करके
No, that's because I witnessed how my mother worked, slogged away. And I remember once my cousins had come to Pune for Savai Gandharva, and in the middle of the night, she was cooking for them, and the cooker ka handle was not put properly, or something had happened, and the whole lid flew.
blew up.
And the kitchen, this is a large kitchen, and the rice is stuck on the ceiling.
Ceilings.
Of course, my cousins helped. They were all in their dhotar, and so they helped all that. But later on, that rice dried, and then at some point it was cleaned. So this affected me. So my outlook towards women changed, and my behavior towards women changed tremendously. But I'm still fighting because all of us have that male ego,
Yeah,
male
of course,
MCP
of course.
ego, and it's very difficult to let go of that because it's in the veins. So uh, the girls can do that job, but the guy is not supposed to. You know,
That's
Gundya-
patriarchy, na? मतलब that's innate and that's ingrained in
Yeah.
for centuries actually.
Yeah, for centuries. And especially India, it's very deep rooted. Almost everywhere, I think, it's deep rooted. So this scale, this wrong scale, this balance was something that I thought about because that is not what uh, books had taught me. And so I could not fathom how my father doesn't understand this because the books were his.
Right.
The last count was 5,000 books in the house, including the ones in the village. So if I was stuck at any point of time through college, through FTI, and later on for another 15, 20 years, if I was stuck on any subject, for example, if I was stuck on Panchamahabhuta, I would call Bhavu.
Your dad.
Panchamahabhuta,
Bahu used to call him.
Bhavu. Because there was a joint family. So everybody was to call him Bhavu.
But is it? I've never heard this. Anybody calling their father Bahu.
Yeah, there are families who call their father because when you have a joint family and when you have women and they're calling the brother-in-law Bhau,
That is
brother.
okay. Yeah.
Just keep him at bay, to keep him at a distance, and so that became the norm for us also, children, to call him Bhau. So we called him Bhau. So he was Bhau to the world and Bhau to us.
Wow. And then how? I mean, in what other ways did this manifest itself, and how did it resolve itself? I mean, this relationship with your father. How did you? Because eventually you resolved it. That's what at 38, 39, it
Yeah,
got resolved somewhere. And in what other ways did it manifest? And matlab, this rebellion and this revolt that was going on.
See,
And what made you, at the end of it, what made you realize that it's a like what I think I have a simple explanation.
generic.
It's generic and it's a generational thing.
yeah.
It's not only that; it's generic, of course, and it's also generational. Like right now, we don't do this. I mean,
It's like carrying it's adolescentic.
yeah,
Because when you're an adolescent, when you're a teenager, you will rebel, revolt, you will not like that authority, you will not accept that authority. All that is generic. But to carry that adolescentic behavior as a pattern, as a personality trait for another 10 years, not late 30s, sorry, it was in the early 30s, that late 20s and early 30s. Because by then my first marriage had gotten over. And so that is what was a turning point actually, to realize that you have only one dad in your life and one mom in your life, and you have to accept them for what they are, and you have to accept the fact that non-pious man in his middle age or in his old age can become pious.
Right.
An open man, a man with a forward-thinking man can become akunchit.
Right. Constricted in his views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he'll start contradicting himself. He'll start contradicting what he has brought you up on, the staple diet of uh, intelligence, creativity, arts, all that, and he suddenly becomes somebody else. It's like uh, Roland Joffe. I had written something for him called The Invaders.
Yeah, you told me that, yeah.
So, and he was sitting across the table from me, and I was narrating this script to him over 2.5 days. After that, he started reading his notes. And that guy who's actually 6'4", in my eyes, after having seen Killing Fields and all that, was a 7'8" Rara Rasputin he was for me. And that great guy with his comments and his literally sadak chap comments on that script suddenly became 5 foot nothing across the table. So but that didn't happen with father. With father, I just embraced what he was. We still had our arguments, but we could live together.
But I feel, I feel even with your father, for example, because we're talking, I feel that it's even his behavior is a generational thing. That's what I meant. I mean, I'm not talking about only you, where you said about,
Yeah.
that it's about your age and your revolt. And at that age, everybody revolts.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that the father is a Jew. I mean, it's not only you, it's even your children, they'll try to advise you on things which you know 100 times more than them.
Yeah.
So it's a very normal thing between a father and a son,
Yeah.
father and children, I think. But I think even within that aspect of it, I think your father has grown up in an era where patriarchy was was on, and you could see it all around him, and within that phase to become a Jyotiba Phule or something is an exception.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not really
Yeah.
what it is. So I feel that maybe one can be hard on him, but I'm saying that it's also a generational thing.
Yeah.
Everybody around him was like that. Everybody, and I'm sure as he grew older, he mellowed down. He understood the world differently than it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I see that around. Because now in our generation, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't dare to do it with any woman. Ki ye lao, wo lao. I never do it even otherwise. But I'm saying that most of my friends don't have that kind of thing to do it.
Yeah.
वो बीवी मार देगी उसको, मतलब kill him. मर्जी से लाई तो लाई. So that patriarchy also, I think, over a period of time, as women get more educated,
Has got eroded, yeah.
Yeah, has reduced compared to within at least our circuits.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not talking about
Exactly.
Exactly. Slightly below.
Absolutely.
And, of course, I mean it's still there, and it's still.
Yeah.
You can see it in the little. You can see it in the statistics of how many women work and
Yeah.
what kind of work they do and what they get paid, and we can already see that. But it's definitely a huge improvement from, say, like 30 years back. So it's all this takes time, because it's centuries old, and nothing is going to change tomorrow. It's all going to happen over time, like in Europe or like in, it's slowly taking over. So I feel that even with your father, it's more of a generational thing. It's the aspect of what was around him and what he grew up on. So that is there. But of course, I mean, there's always obviously a contradiction in it, because he was a writer and he was more aware of.
He was an intellectual.
Yeah.
And there I was in this group of Marathi poets and writers and artists and painters and musicians and all that. And that phase of your life when you ask the boy, "Okay, what do you want to be?" I would say, I don't know. Or I want to go to NID, or I want to be a designer. And that doesn't happen. I say, "Arey, nahi hua?" And they would dig it in. They would needle that in.
Because you were your father's son.
So that.
Because they wouldn't do it with, say, with your Apu Bahadur, for example,
Yeah.
as much as they would do it with you.
So Dagonचा मुलगा. Dago is Damodar Govinda Deshpande. So Dago.
Dago's son.
Dago's son. So anywhere I would go, there is somebody or the other who knows my father. And Dago's son. So I avoided after FTI. First few years I tried to make films in Maharashtra for, let's say, the semi-government agencies or whatever. After that, I avoided government work. Films division I tried. With Jayan Narikar, I was there with him for a year and a half, designing a series for films division. But after that, I left, and then after that, I have not worked for the government, and I have not worked in Marathi language.
Wow.
That that was the amount that I was hurt by snide remarks and
So it used to
behavior.
happen a lot after you passed out of FTI.
Yeah.
That they used to say this is Dago's son, and so that reference always used to crop up.
Yeah,
Whether positively, whether negatively. I mean,
negatively most of the times,
most of the time negatively.
because there was always a comparison, and I could see it in their eyes. So it was not my imagination, because they would make sure that they would comment, they would say something.
So obviously there was resentment, no? Because it's if you're going to hear it all the time
Yeah,
from whoever, I mean, obviously thoda resentment to aayega.
yeah.
Matlab,
You get stumped.
yeah, yeah.
You wait in offices, and you wait for to meet them in their houses, in the halls, and you wait for a long time, and you're hungry, and you just want to talk to him and say, is there any avenue for making film that you know of that you can help me out with? And then he would come, and he would not help. The other thing would be, they would advise me to do a job or to do something else which was not at all my line of work. So,
Which is very strange considering that there was. But your father was pretty cool with FTIA and all that. I mean, he was
yeah,
people look at-
they were cool, but they had to put you down. I don't know why.
No, no, I'm talking specifically about your father. Your father, when you got into FTI, was pretty
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
about it. He was pretty happy.
he was very proud of the fact that I was a filmmaker. He has always, every film, every ad film of mine that he's seen, he has commented on, he's written postcards, he's written inland letters, he's written on A4 size paper and
Wow.
sent me letters. I have a lot of those letters still with me. So it was a different bond. When I would get depressed or frustrated, I have woken him up at 11 o'clock in the night or at 4 o'clock in the morning and talked to him. Because he was a wonderful guy to talk to. So he was a friend at one end. And all this
He was
emotion.
also your competition in a way, I think. He was your friend and he was your. In a way, he was also needling through other people, not him.
No, I could not fathom how his friends, bereft of course, a few of them, how his friends in Pune and in Bombay could behave in this fashion with Dago's son. Now, in retrospect, I wonder why that happened. Maybe because he was a critical intellectual and he also commented on their writing.
Ah.
So,
So it was a way of getting back.
yeah,
And because they couldn't hurt him,
yeah.
they hurt you.
Yeah, and because he was a classical music critic, he was an art critic. He was.
So he used to write on their works and he used to
Yeah.
criticize
Yeah, yeah.
or appreciate or whatever. So,
Yeah.
oh. Yeah, I mean, imagine Khalid Muhammad's son going around asking for work in the industry.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Khalid Muhammad was a big time film critic at one point and he rubbed along to a lot of
in
people
fact,
the wrong way.
so yeah, it's been a tough life.
Wow. So let's quickly, let's try to end on a more positive note with your father, where you talked about his uprightness with related to corruption, and maybe, I mean, in hindsight, I'm sure you're proud of the fact that your father was not corrupt.
Fuck, absolutely, man. With
तभी रहा होगा कि पैसा नहीं है और साइकिल नहीं है
yeah.
और बाइक नहीं है.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in hindsight, when you're at
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you must have really felt proud that
I still
my
am.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are these किस्साs that you said that कोई आता था घर पे और पैसा लेके आता था और
So if that guy came with a packet,
he was a deputy labor commissioner
yeah. So if
Of
industrialist, no, of Pune.
of Pune area.
So an industrialist would send, first of all, if the industrialist just sent a driver then he would refuse to accept. He would say, I don't want such empty gestures. And if Khuda na khasta, he would get a packet along with and keep it aisa side mein, bahar, get out of my house or get out of my office. And we witnessed this. We children have witnessed these events, and how he would then be rude to them. Because he was not there to do their bidding. He was there as a deputy labor commissioner. He was sorting the problems of the labor. And he wrote a lot of articles on labor law also. So even in that field, he had friends in Bombay, in Pune. So he was a highly respected, but he was a highly, people are scared of him. Durun Dongar Sazare.
And you paid a price for all that also, I think.
A bit of it, yes.
A bit of it.
Yeah.
But it all ended well, right? I mean, it all...
Yeah. Like I said, whenever I was down in the dumps, I would call him on the phone, or I would go and sit with him and we would chat. And to date, we are a closely knit, strong, bonded family of 2 sisters and 1 brother and mom, is because of that, because of what he taught us. Not those years when he changed, but what he taught us. And then after that, it was beautiful to be with him. I must tell you how he passed away. So he fell when he came out of the toilet. And my mom was there. My sister was there inside room. So my mom carried him. No, my sister had gone out. So my mom carried him till the sofa. He was in her lap. And ever so slowly, and she was, caressing his head. And ever so slowly, like the doctor said the next morning, he said he went beautifully. You can see it on his face. He died in her lap slowly. एक वाती कशी विझते slowly. तसा तो जीव बाहेर गेला.
Yeah, I mean, just I'll translate it. I mean, it's like how a candle, how the flame just dissipates, you know. That's how his life went away very slowly. That's what you're trying to say.
In my mother's lap.
In your mother's lap. Amazing. What a beautiful way to say it. I mean, I'm sure the event is not a good event, but the way it is, it's...
But he lived a full life.
He lived a full life.
Yeah.
And at what age did he pass away? I mean,
90 something. No, 1925 he was born and he passed away in 2018. So.
Wow, 93.
Correct.
That's a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
अभी मुझे ही लगता है पता नहीं कितने साल है, you know. I'm sure you also the kind of lives we lead.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So now I think let's come to, because I think this is a fascinating story. I mean, so just I told you that this podcast will just go in whatever direction it seems interesting to go on, you know. But I really liked this angle, and we can now come to you and, you know, your story, and that's the more that will be a fascinating thing to hear too. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my conversation with advertising and film director Ravi Deshpande. I published the second part of this lovely conversation on Friday next week. I drop a new episode every Friday night at around 10 p.m. I will also end this and every episode by recommending a film or a web series. But before that, here is a small message on how you can help to keep this podcast alive and growing. This episode is free and we intend to keep it that way. But it does take a lot of time, money and effort to produce the show. We research, write, record and edit before we finally present it to you. So if you wish to support our effort, you can help us produce the show by contributing any amount you wish on our website, conversationswithatul.com. Please note that the word conversations is plural with an S. So do visit conversationswithatul.com. And here is my film reco. The film I recommend today is Wild at Heart. Adapted from a novel by Barry Gifford and screenplay by David Lynch, this comedy crime drama, directed by Lynch, is the story of two lovers, Lula and Sailor, as they try to escape from a bunch of assassins hired to kill Sailor. Wild at Heart won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 1990 and Best Supporting Actress nomination for Diane Ladd at the Oscars. Wild at Heart rates a savage 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Do watch if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter by following my Twitter handle Atul Taishete, spelled as ATULTAISHETE. Also, do visit my website Conversations, that is Conversations plural with an S. The complete website address is conversationswithatul.com. So see you next Friday at 10 pm with a different guest, a new episode and a fresh conversation right here on Conversations with Atul. In the second part of my conversation with advertising and film director Ravi Deshpande, we conversed about his father who used to read the Vedas to him, his career as a writer on some wonderful films like The Terrorist, Malli and Dubai Return, his disappointing experience with Hollywood director Roland Joffe, his views on how cinema is an immersive experience and why, in spite of having a truckload of celebrity friends, he doesn't really like to be seen with any of them in public spaces. Please welcome Ravi Deshpande, a man whom I fondly call Gaon Dost, because his friend list would make up a small town, or at least a large village. Hi, I'm Atul Taishete, and welcome to my podcast, Conversations with Atul. So, Ravi, let's get back to your life, and you started off with, because we are having this, we're rambling across, like we're going to FTI and we're going to Andhra and we're going to Pune and then we're going to Bombay and so far it's been like that. But let's try to put a timeline to your life, and how and what things happened and how your life played out. So you were born in where? I mean, you were born in Pune?
No, I was born in Hyderabad.
Born in Hyderabad.
And then father had a job in Bombay, so we shifted. He was a labor officer.
Yeah.
So we shifted to Bombay. And then my first standard was in Vadodara. By that time, we went to Vadodara. So my first, second, third was in Vadodara. Then I had a problem of rheumatism.
Yeah.
There was also some problem with my heart. So the doctor said that shift.
What problem was it with your heart?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But I haven't faced any problem after. But I remember the rheumatism because the knees would swell up.
Wow.
Both the knees. And
At that age, when you are like 6-7 years old.
yeah, and I was not able to get up. So if I was sitting, then parents bought a carom board for me. And
Acha.
so it was an endless carom board. And I think that's when I also started to read.
Because you couldn't do any physical activity.
I couldn't do anything at all.
This for how long?
This went on for quite a while, 6-8 months. And I used to fall down. I stand and then fall down.
You just used to, like top, used to fall down.
And then that was the time that father would come back earlier from office, as early as he could. And he used to wake up also early and wake us all up. And he used to read us the Vedas
Oh, wow.
and the Puranas and explain from Sanskrit to Marathi. And he has his Ferguson College friend, Sudarshan Desai, who was a Gandhian, who was living in Vadodara, who was working in Alembic. His son and me are still best of friends. It was just last month that I had a long video chat with him. So that was Vadodara. And then it so happened that I was a very avid kite flyer. And everybody in the colony, and we used to live just next to the Sayajirao Palace, that Sayajirao Palace. There was a ground, and adjacent to that ground was a society, Makarpura Road. So I used to fly kites, and I was a killer.
Really good with kites.
And we used to live in the bungalows. So I was drawing in the line, and I kept moving backwards, and I went over the sill and fell down.
You from the balcony or from the terrace of your house?
terrace of the house.
It was like a two-storied house. How big was it?
1.5 storied house. So
Wow.
quite a height it was.
How old were you?
Must have been in the second or third standard.
Wow.
And then I remember my father was in his Aram Kursi. And Aram Kursi is, what do you call it? Aram Kursi. Like,
Yeah.
so he was,
Lounge kind of.
so he was sitting in that, in his dhoti.
Uh,
And I still remember, before I blacked out, I saw him running with the dhoti flying about. And he jumped off. There was a veranda. So he jumped off to pick me up and get me inside. And that was when something to do with the heart happened and the rheumatism became acute. But nothing happened with the fall. There was nothing else that happened to me.
okay. You fell on soft ground or what?
No, gravel.
You fell on gravel from 1.5. That is almost like 20 feet, I think, at least.
And there was Tulsi Rundavan and there was wheat. And in between was a patch.
Wheat is bricks.
Yeah, and just in that patch, I was accommodated.
But it was gravel, right?
Yeah. So the gravel was up, it was a pathway, and I fell on that.
But nothing happened. You fell on your back. Or,
Yeah. Nothing happened.
So very lucky, I think. Wow.
So a lot of such accidents happened to me through childhood, but nothing happened to me. Like I slipped on the Siangad hill while I was climbing up. It was wet and slippery. And I kept falling down. And I didn't know how to climb back up.
You fell down the slope.
Yeah. Into the ravine. So deep
Oh
down
my
was
God.
hundreds of feet. So I came back home and I wrote about that experience. And then
But there was anybody with you?
there were other kids with me. And so the teacher asked me, it was a school trip. And the teacher asked me to read that aloud in class. I felt quite kicked when everybody clapped.
How were you taken up? I mean, somehow you managed to come up.
Yeah, I just, whatever grass, whatever I could hold on to, it was all, I would go up 5 feet and then I would slither down another 8 feet. So it went on for quite a while and they were waiting for me and they had started to search for me.
Achha, they didn't see you. There was nobody had an idea that you were there.
So nobody knew where exactly I was.
Baapre.
So I had slithered off. So that way. So there are a lot of such things that have happened, but I was
You were
saved.
lucky.
Yeah. So anyway, so from there we came to Pune. And in the next lane was my school. And then we shifted from that school to a high school, which was, my sister was with me in the same class. So it was a wonderful time. It was a lovely school. And
What school is this name?
Kannada Sanghas Karnataka High School.
Kannada Sanghas.
And Suresh Kalmadi's father was the principal, Dr. Kalmadi.
But this was a Kannada school in Pune.
Yeah. No, not Kannada. It was an English medium school.
But it was called Kannada Sangha. Kannada.
Kannada Sangha is the association which had started the school. Karnataka High School, but not teaching Kannada, English medium school. Because my father didn't want to put me into a convent school because of his hatred for the British. Yeah. And for the, so that's why I landed up in this Karnataka High School. And to date, I speak with my best friend, Apu Bahadur, like I told.
Oh, he was in school with you?
Yeah, from 5th standard to all the way through college till I went to FTI. So it was a wonderful time because we used to walk from home, play badminton on the way, and then go to school after that. Me and my sister.
Because your sister was also in the same class.
Yeah. And I was good in my studies. And I remember there was a drawing teacher who tried to, use the ruler on my hand. And so I cried and I ran from the school. And I went home. And father was just getting ready to go to office. And in his 3-piece suit, and all that. And I told them that this is what happened. And he strode down with me into the school, went into the teacher's room and fired the hell out of that guy. Because my father never touched us. He never punished us physically. And he was against that. And he wouldn't allow the school to allow such an instance to reoccur. So he went to the principal. The principal apologized to him. And he had a bit of a lecture about schooling and deschooling and so on and so forth there. It was a lovely school. Nadigir, I think, was the principal then. The teachers were fantastic. And having the house close by, having two hills close by, and like I said, me and Apu had this fondness for the ruins, for desolate, barren landscapes, for moss, for structures which were just left there for years together. So we would go in search of those places. So childhood was that. Childhood was NCC, cadet, flying, making and flying aeroplanes, aero models, and then in NCC, becoming a GPL, which is getting a GPL, glider pilot's license, going across to Hadapsar and flying gliders.
You've flown gliders?
Yes, so you get a glider pilot's license after that.
Oh, wow.
So I love that. But I still have a fear for heights, but I still managed to do that. We used to reach there at 7, so we used to leave home at 4:15 in that kadak starched NCC uniform. And it was free for us. Again, me and Apu together. So most of everything that we've done,
It's been you and him.
me and him. Even if it has been buying beer, and because then those small bottles had come of pints had come, so we would carry them just before the 10th standard exams. And there was a canal. That canal you see next to the FTI, near the TV, where the TV staff stays. Behind that. Now there's a road on it.
Yeah, now there's a road.
In those times there was a rough, muddy road. So we would have the beer, and then so somebody complained to my father. So he said, he's having beer and he's going to, but do you know what his results are? So shut up, let him have his beer.
I think overall your father seemed to be a very liberal and a very...
He was liberal and then he changed. So that is what happened.
Changed.
Like I said, a non-pious guy started to become pious. A non-believer started to become a believer. A liberal guy started to become orthodox.
With age.
A free and open-minded intellectual started to become... so all that happened. Anyways. But he was still fun till the end. And he was still fun to have as a friend and to have a dialogue. So that was school.
But school, you also said that because Apu Bahadur was Satish Bahadur's son, you went to FTI right from the time that you were 10, 12 years old, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And used to be in FTI the whole day, you could roam around and you could do...
Anywhere, in the forest, in the studios, go and see what is happening there, here, there, and romp around the whole place. And the hill behind. And the main theatre. So you would walk into the main theatre and see which film is going on. So there would be a Bergman going on. We would sit and watch it. So I've seen Wild Strawberries. The first time I saw it, I was 6 years old. And then I saw it again when I was in college. And then again when I was in FTI. And each time it was a different interpretation of that film for me. And then I read Bergman. Then I realized that it means something else altogether.
No, but I love Wild Strawberries. I generally love Bergman films.
Yeah.
I don't like everything they show in FTI, but I generally love Bergman films a lot. So that's a It's very. I think it's also very simple storytelling.
Yeah.
Bergman.
Yeah. So all that, I
With a
did
lot
not
of
see
depth.
all that Christianity in it.
Yeah, yeah.
All the symbolism that they spoke
Yeah.
about, that meant something else to me altogether.
But because you also need to know the reference, na? Matlab it's
Yeah.
you just can't see into something without knowing the reference. And I think that films have to work irrespective of the reference. I mean,
Yes, exactly.
so वो
So
reference
when-
है तो समझा नहीं समझा तो भी the film has to work, na?
So when Satish Bahadur and John formed that.
John Abraham.
No, not John Abraham. John, what was his name here? He made Amma Aryan
Okay.
in Malayalam. So he had a collective. And so he took films. They took these films, which is Bergman and so on and so forth, and showed them to a village audience in Kerala. And they reacted beautifully. So you don't need that reference to context every time. You don't need that
Right.
scholastic film appreciation kind of glasses.
Absolutely.
Like I told you how Alazata Raju reacted to Saigal.
Saigal.
Because cinema is immersive. So when you see a film, you immerse yourself in it. I have an example of, I was transferring Kieslowski after he died. Red, White and Blue and the 10 films. And the transfer boy was more interested in MTV, in Network 7 and Babulnath. And he'd just come to Bombay. So he must have been some 15, 16 years old. And he's doing his work. He was taught how to transfer from, tape to whatever or CD to whatever. And he was doing that job. But his attention was on the TV. Because MTV grind chal raha tha tab. And he kept looking at the other monitor which was showing the Kieslowski film. Atul, he stopped looking at MTV after 20 minutes. And then he sat through the film and he actually cried through Red. When that light changes, when she is sitting and talking to him and he says stop, and the sunlight streams into the house and it changes, that time transition sort of a thing happens. This boy is crying. He's from a village in Karnataka. So cinema affects people very differently.
It's a very beautifully shot films also. मतलब वो Kieslowski तो particularly those colors वाला films are तो superbly shot. Superbly shot. So when you went to when you were as a kid there, what's the impression of the place? What is it like? अरे इधर आया हूँ because अप्पू का घर है. That kind of a thing. Yeah. What was it?
No, we thought we belonged there. That's it. I mean, we were comfortable there. It was like how I'm comfortable with Soy Gandhara Punyatiti and the music there and the Badate Vada that you get there and the mirchi with it. In the Pune Thand. So I was comfortable with sitting in the auditorium and watching films. And it was a beautiful experience because we saw so many Disney films, Walt Disney. Because he would send cameramen into the desert, into various places, and they shot. And we used to wonder how much of patience you require, how many hours the cameraman must have sat to wait for the animal to come out of its hole.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So that's how we became interested in National Geographic at a very early age. And so we would borrow National Geographics. But then Appu subscribed for National Geographic. So he would get that, and because Satish Bahadur used to get Time magazine, so we would read Time magazine and National Geographic. So that was childhood through till college. And when it came to college, we didn't know what to do.
But what other friends did you have other than Appu? I mean, what?
Oh, there are a lot of them. There are a hell of a
Lot
lot
of
of them. Yeah. And I'm in touch with a lot of them. So people ask me, Ravi, you have more than 4,500 friends on Facebook. I said, yeah, some of them are my students, but a lot of them are
friends.
people that I have kept in touch with, are friends from childhood.
You are what you call a Gaon Dost.
Correct. Yeah.
No, but you also have that vibe, I think, as a person, because I remember the way we met and then we just became friends, no?
Yeah.
Matlab,
Yeah.
I see,
Yeah.
I think the first time we met or whatever, and then we just became friends and we stayed in touch for all
No,
these years.
we became friends because I wanted to see your film properly. So we
Rewind.
sat in my car.
I don't remember actually.
Yeah, so because there were too many people in the office and there was too much of danga happening, so we sat in the car and I started the AC in the car and then I saw the film and I broke out on the film. and and I remember once you snubbed me when we were talking about, I was, talking about genres and how you have to stick with one genre when you make one film, and you said, "What nonsense, Ravi."
Did I?
Yeah, you don't remember?
Sounds like me. So what was this conversation? I am very curious.
No, I don't remember the conversation, but I was struck by the fact that you're so down to earth because most
Down to earth.
yeah that you can strike me down and say call a spade, you know.
Tell you whatever my opinion is.
so
I don't agree with you. I mean, you're entitled
correct.
to your opinion, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I value that somebody is not fake, that somebody is genuine. And when I see that, then I latch on. And I want to make that person a friend. Because I really value that genuinity. Because most of the times, human interaction is fake. Two people sitting in a restaurant, smiling at each other and having a coffee, whether on a date or otherwise, are fake. That's why we say कि यारी दोस्ती में दारू पिए तो मजा आता है. Why? Because you let your hair down then. Then you're a little more genuine, you're a little more honest with each other.
But ऐसा क्यों है? मतलब I think like most times, I mean, I don't like drinking so much. I used to like smoking, but I think more or less I've given it up now. But I'm saying that जो है वैसे भी बोल दो तो दारू पीने के बाद ऐसा कुछ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती.
Correct. Daru is just a means.
Yeah.
एक निमित्त मात्र, as we say in Marathi. It's a निमित्त मात्र to let your hair down and to open up yourself when you're chatting with a friend. To disclose your inner self, so to say. That's why I like what Raju has said about his process with his writer, that Joshi. Raju Irani has cited this example when they were
Abhijat Joshi.
Abhijat. So they were interacting on a script in America and they were stuck at one place. So they went for a walk. And there was a school or a cathedral or something like that. And there was a bench outside it. So they sat down. And they were not facing each other. So there was no compulsion to talk. And there were long pauses. And they started chatting. But they were not looking at each other. And they cracked the scene. So from that time onwards, they started to sit on that bench or not look at each other. And the scene started to get cracked. So it's the same thing, the nimitta matra, the thing that...
The bench is a nimitta matra.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean,
Yes.
they could have been sitting anywhere.
Yeah.
The bench is the nimitta matra, what we
Yeah.
say. What you mean is that it would have mattered. I mean, nimitta is reason and matra is just, I mean, it's just a reason. I mean, it's not really, yeah. I mean, you may give credit to the bench, but the bench has actually nothing to do with it. Am I right? Am I interpreting it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So to go back to the college time, by that time, we had become adventurous and we'd built a glider.
How did school end? I mean, I am more interested. Let's finish with that part. How did school end for you? I mean, when you were finished with your 10th?
Yeah.
So how did it end? I mean, it ended good marks, good.
Yeah, it ended with good marks. And,
Both of you?
Beer and exam.
So at what age were you drinking beer?
Well, 9th and 10th standard.
You started drinking beer?
But not regularly.
Yeah, of
but
course
off and
not.
on.
इतना पैसा थोड़ी रहता था. Beer was expensive.
Yeah.
You could have drank it every day if you could afford it, but yeah.
And that was the time that Dad had also told me, you want to drink, you can drink at home. It doesn't matter. He was the one who introduced me to beer when he took me to a place called The Place.
In Pune?
Yeah, in camp.
Yeah.
Where the place used to sell beer and sizzlers.
Sizzlers?
Yeah. That was when he introduced, that was in 7th standard, I think. So that way back. Anyways, so school ended beautifully. I had realized that I'm quite attracted to my sister's girlfriends. I had more access.
But you must have been a good-looking boy. So I mean, there must have
I
been.
have no idea. I was very awkward with myself.
You never thought you were good-looking.
No.
But you're a good-looking man even today. So I mean, that's why I'm asking you.
The podcast listeners can't look at how I look. So
No. I mean, but I'm sure that people who know you. So I'm just saying that. I mean, I think most of the podcast listeners are going to be our friends to begin with. So people, I think most of us know. But I'm just saying that. So how was puberty for you at around that? Beer में ही चला गया क्या puberty सारा?
no, there was romance.
There was romance.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk romance.
I fell in love with a classmate who was
In
also
school?
who was also my sister's friend,
Okay.
whom I'm still in touch with on Facebook. She's married another friend of mine
Okay.
from the same class. Okay, so that was like the first kiss and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it was a beautiful time. Plus, like I told you, I got introduced to porn quite early in my life.
Early in life.
Yeah, and but I was not introduced to sex. But I didn't have sex till I was in college, second year, I think.
It is really early, huh? In those times. I mean, at least I don't know what kids today do, but that was really early in those times. Yeah.
So I had like you have flings, school flings. So I had school flings after that, and we used to have, when the girls were at puberty, they would grow breasts and they would have pokies, and we would get all excited about the pokies.
What is a pokey? I'm sorry?
Nipples, which would
Okay.
stand out,
Okay.
poke out of the dress.
Okay.
So
But these are like all 15-year-old boys. It's a common thing. I mean, this
I'm not talking about 15-year-old. Yeah.
13, 14, 13,
Yeah.
15.
Earlier than
once
that.
it's all raging hormones for everybody.
So
I
all
mean, it's
that.
not only
So it
the
was a
boys,
normal,
it's also for the girls.
Yeah, it was
It's
a normal.
yeah.
It was a normal childhood, and
But most of us didn't get action. That's what I'm saying. You got action.
I was fortunate.
We were just excited. Most of us. And I think most of my friends I know. All of us just excited. That's it. Yeah, but that's a part of growing up. So, and now you have children who are around that age, and
yeah.
so yeah.
One 14-year-old, one 19-year-old. So it was an exciting time. Then I made friends that I'm still in touch with, like Samir Kulkarni, and others. We used to sit on the की कट्ट्यावर बसून किंवा भिंतीवर बसून किंवा गेटवर बसून तासन तास गप्पा.
People don't understand this. I'm sure that generations today don't understand the concept of a katta, at all. I mean, and what a katta was is like it can be just a wall somewhere.
It's a parapet.
Yeah, it can be a parapet, it can be a wall, it can be the first floor of someone's house, wherever that you're sitting, and four or
it
five.
could be afternoon with the sun pouring down on you, or it could be evening after the cricket game, and mom is not called out to you. You're sitting there and chatting away till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the night.
Right. No, and it's difficult for this generation to. I mean, there's nothing good or bad about it. Every generation comes with it because technology has evolved, but I'm saying that people could just sit, 5-6 people just sit on a place, or they come there every day at a certain time and hang around for those religiously for 2-3 hours, and they sit there for 2-3 hours. They just chatting, talking films, girls, whatever that they can talk to, and making comments on people passing by, making fun of each other. I mean, and I think that's where bonding happened. I mean, that's where you became friends, and that you stayed friends for life, because you did, like, my view of friendship and how people become friends is that if you can only be friends with people with whom you do a lot of nothing. You can only be close friends with people, I mean to say, with whom you do a lot of nothing. That has no
So
specific
true.
consequence.
Such a truism that is.
Yeah, and no consequence it has to have.
Yeah,
कि
yeah.
बैठा है और ऐसे ही आसमान देख रहा है, कुछ पॉलिटिक्स का बात करती है, nobody, you can't even vote. कुछ तो ऐसे ही बकवास चल रहा है लाइफ में. And I feel,
Nonsense, you're right. It's about nonsense.
yeah, it's about nonsense, and you can only be friends with those people. That's why a lot of people, because I have worked corporate for 3 years, and it's very like तुम नौकरी छोड़ देता है, वो लोग छूट जाते हैं. Because you're always doing dhanda with them somehow or the other. Even if you're going out for a drink, there is always dhanda happening. And that thing I think doesn't translate into friendships, and it doesn't translate into everlasting relationships. That's what I feel. I mean,
Very
and those are your friends even today. Those are those people that you were in school with.
Absolutely. Then I had friends who had come from Bombay or would come from Africa and joined school. There was Swati Dandekar and people. And some kids used to smoke.
Really?
Like I said, some of them introduced us to porn magazines.
Right.
So we used to sit there. We didn't feel like smoking because it was anathema to smoke. And I didn't like the smell of smoke. It was not until college that I started.
Because Sattar Raju used to smoke, na? Matlab,
Alasatra
chirut.
used to chirut. Haan.
So that must have still been. Allah Chat, I like that. I love this.
Raju.
Allah Sattar Raju.
And but the world remained within that Prabhat Road and
Deccan.
that like for you it is Vartak Nagar and Thane.
Yeah.
So for us it was Deccan Gymkhana to go and play football in the rains, then to play basketball there at PYC, which is Pune Youth Club or whatever it is called.
Right.
On Deccan Gymkhana and that Prabhat Road and that locality. I still go back to that locality. Last month I was there to meet my childhood friend who used to live across the road, Shashank Madgulkar, Venkatesh Madgulkar's son, who's returned after all these years in America. And I've kept in touch with all these people because, I don't know, somehow I can't imagine my world or my life without friends. That's the punji. That's the bank balance, I suppose. So college, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know whether to take the science stream, art stream, what are we going to do tomorrow?
Right.
Kuch pata nahi. The only interest is in arts. But what kind of arts? Where should we go for that?
What that whole range is, that one doesn't know actually.
Yeah. Like today, kids know. My son knows that he's going to go into sports and physio and all that. So then there was no knowledge, despite having read so much and been abreast of what is happening. And so Apu veered towards science and I veered towards the arts. Though we spent all that nonsense together, he was built differently, I was built differently. And I took the arts. Yeah, I also took science and I came to Ferguson College. But
Because of Apu.
First modern college, then Ferguson College. Okay, then he went into engineering and then I felt lonely. And so then, what am I supposed to do? By then, I had a girlfriend who used to live in NDA, Khadakwasla. And I was still meeting Apu and going to his house. It's the same music that we shared, the same interest in books that we had, everything. And then, but I still started to feel a little lonely in college. That's why I spent more time in the British Council Library and Vaishali than in college. So my grades slipped terribly, and I wrote more poetry in the night. I also started to smoke.
Okay.
And
So when you were 17 years old.
Yeah, 16, 17. I used to also eat tambaku, gai chap, suna.
A very popular brand, Gai Chap even today.
Even today, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I started to do leather I used to work with leather. I was fascinated by leather. So I used to make small pouches, folders, purses, wallets with my hand, stitch with my hand, not with a
Wow.
machine. And design.
Because you were interested in design now.
Yeah. So I tried to do that. NID didn't happen. I was rejected.
For both of you.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah. And then father sat me down and said, why don't you try FTI? Because you're a storyteller. He knew that I love to, regale friends with stories. And my friends also got together and said, try it at least once.
I'll just stop you here. I just want to know that was there a little resentment that Apu went to engineering and he left you or whatever, or you didn't? No, not at all. I mean, because that friendship was really
It is thick. Absolutely.
No, even today it's thick, but I'm saying that at that point where you feel that you're losing a part of you.
No. Nothing like that. Even when he had a steady girlfriend, who's even now his wife, even then there was no resentment.
No, girlfriends का नहीं बोल रहा हूँ मैं. मतलब I'm generally talking about because you were so close. For what was that feeling when I'm just trying to get it, because it's like when at that age when I'm also talking about a different time, when relationships were slightly more deeper and because you spent a lot of time together. Nowadays people don't. I don't think children spend so much time together with each other as I think we used to earlier with our friends before the smartphone.
And also the parents allowed it,
The parents allowed it, right? Right.
So I would be at his house or he would be at my place.
Right.
And so there was no resentment like that.
Maybe it's the wrong word. I'm not saying, but that where you felt that I felt lonely.
Yeah.
So
there was a vacuum. There was a
vacuum which was left. Because somebody else that his time was now for something else also. No? Because he was doing engineering in Pune.
Yeah. And so then I said, all right. So I said, okay, FTI, let's give it a try, because nothing else is happening in my life. I'm not interested in physics and maths and the subjects I had chosen. And film seemed to be sort of a natural progression, seemed to be okay. I was okay by it. And I was only rebelling with father for not joining FTI. So then I applied. And
what changed your mind? I mean, exactly, do you remember that because you were rebelling?
Yeah. But even my friends, my girlfriends also said, why don't you try here? Because you'll be good at it. That is one thing you'll be good at. So I said, all right. Because I used to write even then. I used to write poetry, I used to write stories.
Right.
And my sister, who's a great influence in my life, my sister who's 2 years elder than me, she also told me.
What did your sister do? After 10th?
She went to the same college, Ferguson College. Arts she did.
Okay.
After that, she went to Nirmala Niketan, Social Sciences. Like my father is from TISS, he started Institute of Social Sciences.
Nirmala Niketan is close to FTI, right? No,
It's close to Churchgate.
Acha, Nirmala Niketan. Yeah, of course.
Bombay.
Yeah, I know. वो खाऊ गली से जाके वहाँ पे है, right?
Yeah, see, because we come from that sadhana family and father's socialist kind of a bend of mind, she veered towards social work.
Okay.
I have also veered towards social work in my professional life, all throughout. So I'm a part of an organization called Abhivyakti Media for Development in Nashik for the last so many years. So that's why the NGO sector. So I did a lot of films for the NGOs. So then, so I joined FTI, and it was a wonderful thing because everybody was as cracked up as I was. So the Bengalis and the Malayalis and there were hardly any Maharashtrian. There was Samir Sabnis, Vasan Sabnis' son. Vasan Sabnis knew my father. My father knows Vasan Sabnis, etc. So there was a nice comfort level in FTI for me, and I loved the fact that I could live in a hostel and out of the house, out of the parents' house. And very quickly then I had girlfriends inside the FTI as well as
outside at the same time.
So,
So you were a player.
but my experience, my comfort level with FTI was because since childhood I've been acting in diploma
FTI
films.
diplomas.
Like Samira Jain's diploma film I acted, which Dilip Verma was the, not Dilip Verma, Ranjan Palit was the cameraman.
Okay.
So that I acted in. Then I acted in some television shorts. When I was in the 5th standard, 7th standard. Then Baba Mazgaonkar was a graduate of FTI. Made some documentaries and he cast me. And Debu Devdhar was the cameraman. And then I met Shravani, and Shravani is still a friend.
Shravani Devdar.
Debu's wife. So like that. So it was a fantastic time.
So what is the process in FTI? Do you remember it? I mean, when it was happening and...
Yeah, I remember each and every semester of FTI.
No, not FTI. I mean, the getting in process, I'm saying, right from the written exam to whatever. How was it different? What I'm trying to say here is that, see, it's different for you and it's different for the rest of us, if I have to look at it like that. Because you have actually grown up in FTI.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen those places, you knew those places, you knew what happens here. You
No,
knew
it was very scary. The interview was very scary. I went through the written and all that. The interview was very scary. I don't remember now who were on the panel. But I think Shyam Benegal was there. And NVK Murthy was the principal then. And NVK Murthy's daughter, Sandhya Murthy, is my school buddy. She was in Karnataka High School. And we are still buddies. She stays in the States. And she has a beautiful son called Kunal, who's a lovely photographer and a painter and a performer. So he's on the spectrum, but he's a beautiful human being. So NVK Murthy was the only person in that panel of people. And they were almost like top lit, in the television wing. They were in the room. So
They were top lit.
And I was Tattapappa there. So when they said, what have you done? So I was laughing stock and they laughed at me because they asked me, so what have you done? You wanted to be a designer. So I said, yeah, I have made some 11, 12 pieces of leather pouches and, So they laughed. Designer.
They laughed.
Yeah. So I got damn scared and my heart was thumping like crazy because I didn't want another failure.
Right.
Because I'd just come out of one failure, which was NID. In 6 months it passed.
Right.
And so I could not even answer the questions properly. I could not say that I've seen films through my childhood. I could not say that I've acted in so many diplomas and...
Which is true. Which was all true.
But I could not tell them. If I narrated all that
nervous.
to them, completely, tattapapa.
Because it started with the laugh.
It started with the laugh and that rough chick, the way they cut into your pauses, because they were not very amiable. They did not
Not very friendly.
that allowance of a pause for that child to speak up.
You were 18 years old, probably.
Yeah.
Because then FT has to allow 12th after 12.
Yeah. So, and hence the tapapapa, I could not say that I have read stuff on film, that I have read our films, their films, I have read about Ghatak, I have seen Ghatak, that I have been to a shoot of Satyajit Ray's.
You've been to a shoot of Satyajit Ray's?
I told you, Smita took me for Sadgati shoot. Yeah. So the entire shoot I was there. So, if I told them all that, they would have not made fun of me and I would have not, then it would have been a different sort of thing. But I didn't effing have the confidence because of the NID thing and because I didn't have Apu with me. Because everywhere that we went together. And Appa was not there with me. And so
that's what I was asking you about. I mean,
I shat in my pants there. And I saw all these other smart guys, the bongs like Ashok Vishwanathan and Shamal Sen Gupta and all these guys who had just given the interview and those ones who had to give the interview, who were confidently sitting around wisdom tree, canteen, smoking, chatting, speaking loudly. And there was no dearth of the level of confidence is there. And here I was. So I said nothing of this. So nothing of this was known to the interviewers. So, but thankfully I was put on the waiting list. So there were two people on the waiting list. Would you believe it, Atul? Deepak Sehgal and me.
Oh, you were from Deepak Sehgal's batch.
Yeah.
Applause.
But
Round of
imagine,
applause, right?
imagine Deepak Sehgal, Mohan Sehgal's son, was also on the waiting list as me.
Yeah.
If any consolation, I felt okay. And then after a couple of months, we were let in. And that is my entrance. Every entrance story is different. तुम्हारा क्या था?
मेरा तो बहुत खराब story है. I was also on the wait list. I didn't know I was on the wait list. That is the funny thing.
Oh,
We were in that 1+1+1 batch, Mohanagashi time. That was a terrible time.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. So there was like you don't know who, and they'd taken a lot of students. And I was in 1+1+1, and I had no idea there is a wait list. No idea at all. So I thought nahi hua hai, and I was very disappointed because I quit my job in investment banking and all that. I had no idea. So there's a friend of mine called Chinmay Divekar who owns resorts. He was with me in Mulund College. He was with me in Jamnalal Bajaj. I mean, he was MBA mein bhi tha. So I remember that some of us had gone to his resort in Durshet or somewhere. So we went there, and Nature Trails karke he used to own.
I know.
So now they've sold it to Sterling. So उधर गए थे हम लोग, and तभी phones नहीं होते थे. But he had a mobile phone, and then phone लग नहीं रहा है.
Sat phone. It would have been a sat phone, satellite phone.
No, he had a mobile phone. This was in 2000. So तभी mobile phone आ गए थे. So then while coming back, he received a call, and my parents were online, and they said तेरा call आया है FTI से. FTI से call आया, क्या call है? हाँ, they have admitted you. I said, admitted me. I didn't believe it because I had no idea I was on the wait list, honestly. And then I went, and then because of that, I lost 2 weeks. That shitty thing was there where it was like every week had marks. That's why I didn't get direction, no? Because I lost out on 2 weeks of education there. So you remember that? I don't know whether you know the structure.
No, I don't know.
So,
this is a very changed structure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, sorry to interrupt, but I'll tell you this example. Rahat Yusufi was a direction professor.
Yeah.
So I am chasing Rahat Yusufi to assess my project because I'm late in giving him my continuity exercise. Okay, continuity exercise has to be assessed by your professor. So I have this can with me, Kodak golden can, एक डब्बा है मेरे पास. I'm going around
16 mm.
And he's under the wisdom tree smoking dope. Then he's in his office rolling a joint. But there's somebody or the other with him. So finally I was exasperated. I went to him and said, "Sir, please assess this." First of all, I was very polite. I should do namaste, to which everybody would laugh. In my interview also, I said, because this is what is being taught to me. This is my culture, to fold my hands at anybody as a greeting, especially the elders. So Rahat used to make fun of me, had made fun of me right through the first semester because of that.
Because you were so cultured.
Yeah, because I was so respectful. So he took the dabba finally. He said, "Kya karega idhar te?" He opens the lid. B plus.
He opens the dabba, smells it, and says B plus.
I was in a state of shock for 15 days. I said, "What the fuck just happened?" No, it was actuality exercise. Sorry, actuality. Actuality. So go on. Sorry.
No, nothing after that. I mean, mine is a long story, so I don't want to get into my story. But yeah, because of that, my second year got jacked because I think it's the first time that there were marks for every week, and there were 4 modules. Like first module was direction, then camera. So I actually missed out on the direction and the camera modules. So obviously I didn't get the marks for that. So in the second year, I was not at the end of the first year when the list came out, I was not there. I was somewhere in the waitlist long, ekdam piche. Because these idiots, they refused to give me marks, average marks for the time that I was not there because it was not my fault. I was in a wait list. So they refused to give it. Then I had to go to court. Then Vinod Khanna came in. Then Vinod Khanna changed some things. And then I ended up doing camera. So that's the story. That's how I ended up doing camera. And it's, see, but I feel that I'm always asked, I'm not asked this, but I've always felt this, is that how life works is that what do you regret? I mean, let me put it differently. I'm saying what is it that in life that one regrets and that one should not regret? Like for example, in my life, if I were to think, for a long time I was bitter about this, that I didn't get to do direction in FTI, I didn't get to make that film in FTI and all that. And then I have thought about it that everything is a process. Some things have to happen for you for some other thing to happen. For example, if I have to look at my life and I have to think that what is that thing after FTI that I don't want to change? Okay, was that in October 2004, I was at the Screenwriters Association trying to register a script, and Sriram Raghavan was there at the same time, just trying to become a member at the Screenwriters Association for whatever, because he had already made Ek Hasina Thi, and he was struggling to make his second film, which was Happy Birthday actually, and then it was not happening, but he had come there for a registration. तो register करने आया था और खो नहीं रहा था, तो half an hour he was just sitting there. I was sitting there, so because there was nothing to do, I started talking with him, and that's how I started writing for him, and that changed my whole perspective of writing. And that's there in my book. It's whatever that book on screenwriting. I think Sriram Raghavan has been a huge influence in the way I understand writing today. So but the point which I'm coming to is that how does it matter what happened? Do I want to change that meeting with Sriram Raghavan? Okay, but if I had to meet Sriram Raghavan in that half an hour window, all the other shit that happened with me till 2004 had to happen. So that is why I don't regret all that at all. I think it was superb that happened, and because that happened, I met him, and my whole perspective of writing changed, which is helping me as long as I'm going to make films. So, and I mean, I hope you so that's how what you regret, and that's why I don't regret things any longer. I just think, okay, maybe I'm regretting it right now, but is there something, if something has happened after that which I don't want to change, then obviously this shit had to happen, and it's only then that you can take you can have a perspective on whether कि ये सही हुआ था कि गलत हुआ था. ये नहीं होता तो वो नहीं होता ना, because it's everything is linked.
It's like, I must tell you this, that in the canteen, one of those years, second year I think, I met Santa, Santosh Shivan.
Okay.
Out of the blues. And he just said, can I sit? And he came and plonked himself, and he was having an omelette.
He's your batch, right?
No, he's my senior.
But not by much.
By 2 years.
Okay.
So he sat.
But he was studying in the same time that you were.
Yeah. So he plonked himself in front of me, and he was having an omelette, and we struck up a conversation. And he's a very funny guy, and we took off. It was in the second year, and he'd passed out or he was passing out. One of these two things, and we bonded, and it was a lovely bond. That has lasted till today. So I was able to work with him as an assistant cameraman, as a co-writer, as a co-director, over the years, over a span of so many years. And like you said about Sriram, Santosh has had a tremendous influence on my career, so to say. He was the one who said, move to advertising. You asked me about how I moved to advertising and what conflicts I had. He's been a great support system, and he's been a great inspiration. And because he's a genius, he's so I don't know, I'm using this term again, so grounded, as in he's a simple guy and beautiful human being, the kindest human being that I know.
Then Santosh Sivan, I think what is the mark of a great DOP or a great camera person is that you see one frame and this must have probably been shot by Santosh. That is, I think, the mark of an amazing DOP. And then you could, and particularly in Mani's films and all, I think he's been phenomenal as a DOP, as a cameraman. So I think he shifted to direction later and
Yeah.
whatever. But so what happened in those 3 years, other than, how did your films go through, and what did you learn, and what was your
See, again, friendships for me are really important. So I made some fantastic friends. Uh, Amrish Chakraborty, who also used to read books.
okay?
K.U. Mohanan, who
DOP.
also who also used to read books. Who would share books with me. Susu, who's no longer there. Sudhanshu Mishra, Sudhir Mishra's brother.
Ha.
Susu used to read voracious. He was a voracious reader. Alok Upadhyay, with whom I've shot a lot of documentaries and advertising films. Cameraman. So I met a lot of friends there. And we used to,
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
and the packages that would come, especially the Russian and Polish cinema that
Yeah.
contemporary Russian and Polish cinema that I saw really affected me deeply. And Anil Zankar and Satish Bahadur both. Towards the end, another guy had come in who I could not quite get to understand, Suresh Chhabria. But these two laid it out very well, very beautifully, the context of a film as to what was happening in Poland at that time, juncture of time, and what it means historically.
All right.
So, I could not read any of the theorists, the structuralists in the library, which was a part of the direction course, because I could not fathom it, because it was so complex. What I saw was not complex, it was lucid, it was simple. Whereas Andre Baza and such books, how to read a film. I don't know why people make it so complex. Whereas a Donald Ritchie, when he writes on Kurosawa, he simplifies Kurosawa.
Yeah.
He draws you into that world.
It's easier to make things complex, right? I mean, it's
How it's easier to.
no. That's what I feel. I wrote a book on screenwriting, and I wrote it because I felt whatever I read was all complex, and I felt that ये इतना सब complex
Yeah,
करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You have to bloody
Yeah.
sit on a table and you have to write. That's the first thing that you need to do, and then there is a process that you need to follow.
Yeah. So even today, I love that book of yours, and I love it also whenever I go to lecture somewhere, like let's say MICA or SRFTI or whichever media school. Then I first introduce them to the myths of filmmaking,
Right.
and I say I want to demystify stuff. So I tell them everything begins with the numbers. It's a numbers game. This is an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
तुम्हारा कुंडली इधर है.
Yeah.
तुम पहले brass tacks. So I call it going back to brass tacks.
Right.
So ये समझो. So hence I liked your book, the script writing book. It's beautiful, and I've given it to somebody and lost it to read.
Give a new one because nobody's buying it anyway.
So I'll buy it.
Come on, you don't have to buy anything from me. And I'm just, other than whatever, I feel that I think filmmaking is very simple. That's always been my view. And that's why, of all the filmmakers that I have seen, the principal reason why I love Christopher Nolan, is simply because those plots and those things, like even Robert Zemeckis and was made Back to the Future and all that, ये सब नहीं बना सकता है तुम. It's like these are very complicated films. Like people think that there are films like Uski Roti and whatever, and they are very complicated films. Boss, you don't understand what complicated cinema is. You write this so lucidly that
Exactly.
like you're writing time travel, and you're writing it so lucidly that boss, anybody sitting somewhere can understand it and be completely engrossed in it. That takes a phenomenal amount of skill and talent. Anybody can go and complicate something. and say कि अरे ये मेरा point of view है.
Correct,
बस
correct.
तेरा point of view है तो मेरे को देखने का जरूरत नहीं है तेरा point of view. अच्छा लगेगा तो ठीक है.
Correct.
But that's what I feel. I mean, I'm
See, I've read so many biographies. So I was
Yeah.
drawn to biographies. Because I think in those biographies, you see that filmmaker more than somebody analyzing that film
बराबर.
and writing reams and reams of
Yeah,
paper on it. So when I read these, like on Kurosawa is like a Bible for me. Roman, Polanski's autobiography, or even
Polanski was such a lucid filmmaker. I mean, yeah.
and he explains what he tells you anecdotes from filmmaking because we are all about telling each other anecdotes, kissas, events,
Yeah.
masti that we've done. Even Kieslowski is that. It's so fantastic that he's standing in the gully talking to his lawyer friend who says कि यार ऐसा 10 commandments से कुछ अरे वाह
ऐसे ही तो बनती है फिल्म. Actually, this is how films get made. That is a fact of this. And what I feel is that it's most times the structuralists and the theorists, they are assuming things which even the filmmaker has not assumed. मतलब ऐसा कुछ लिख देता है कि ये स्ट्रक्चर है और यार बॉस तेरे को मालूम नहीं है उसको, मतलब उसने इतना सोचा ही नहीं, तू बैठ के सोच रहा है, तेरा प्रॉब्लम है. I mean, I think for me cinema has always been स्क्रीन पे दिख रहा है, समझ रहा है कि नहीं समझ रहा है, बाकी छोड़ो. ओके, और समझना भी चाहिए, जरूरी नहीं है. जरूरी नहीं.
Do you understand classical music? No. Do you need to decode it?
Exactly.
No.
But it still has to be interesting. That's
Yes.
all. And it changes from person to person.
Yeah.
So I might still say that यार रवि तेरा सिनेमा तेरे को जो बकवास है, but it doesn't mean that it's not true for Ravi.
Yeah.
It's not true for me. I mean, but so the respect is that for me, the truth is that it's not true for you, and it's true for me.
Yeah.
I feel that ये रवि जो देखता है इसका कुछ मतलब नहीं है, और ये but it's true for me that रवि जो देखता है उसका कुछ मतलब नहीं है, but इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि it's not true for Ravi it's all true and it all matters. So it's all simply from a perspective of how one understands it and visualize it at an individual level. Most things. उसके बाद there are people who I think when there's true democratization of cinema which is box office, कि बॉस अगर ये फिल्म पॉपुलर है और इतने सारे लोग देख रहे हैं, you cannot just diss it. You may not like it, you may not accept this, it's all okay. But the fact is that people have liked it. You can't just say कि
That's
you
why Bollywood has survived for so long.
Yeah.
But there is another side to this which FTI has taught us, because we had wonderful professors. We had wonderful teachers. The grammar of filmmaking, the craft of filmmaking.
Right.
Which is what Mathur Sahab has taught us, or KPR Menon. I was very lucky to have all these professors. Surinder Chaudhary.
He didn't have all these.
Yeah.
Surinder Chaudhary. Okay.
Direction. And
I know Surinder Chaudhary.
Mathur Sahab is Yogesh Mathur, who is editing. Kakaji, who's a cutter, but such a fine artist and such a fine editor that we used to learn a lot from him. And there were such patient teachers, who taught us this. Or Sagir Ahmed, who taught us script
Sagir
writing.
Ahmed I've heard a lot of. But all these other names you are talking about, none of them took a lecture for us, from what I remember.
They were
Yeah,
I was
एक आध
very,
कोई
very,
lecture लिया होगा, उसको
very,
लिया होगा, but by that time I think they're all burnt out and done.
Yeah, guest lecturers who came in, man. Was fantastic. Like, to learn mise-en-scène from a Kumar Shani is like the ultimate thing, man. In a single shot, to do that exercise with Kumar Shani, it is almost like, concentrating a year's learning into that 8-10 days ka workshop. Beautiful. Kumar is a great, even Mani is a great teacher. Both of them are great teachers.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, that they're great teachers.
Yeah. It might not, my point of view could be that it doesn't reflect on the films. Maybe not.
See, reflect on the films
But
is
yes,
your individual opinion of a film.
but
You can't
I
tell
saw-
me that I have to like Manikal. I don't have to.
Yeah.
But he can still be a great teacher.
Yeah. I recently saw Siddheshwari. Blew my mind away again.
Siddheshwari is mind blowing. Even I love Siddheshwari actually.
Satish Bahadur also took us through when he analyzes foreign films, very different from when he analyzes Satyajit or Indian films or Indian film songs, or and I've through my childhood I've sat in on conversations that he used to have with other students and other staff in his house, because we are right outside, outside the door. So that used to fall on our ears. What, and all that came back when I
And you
would
joined
this-
film school.
Yeah. Also, also that experience with Vikas Desai, Aruna Vikas of Sitam,
Superb.
of assisting him as a runner boy, but assisting him and acting in Sitam. So all that was very enriching here. So FTI was like a climax here. It's like an orgasm here, 3-year orgasm. It's beautiful because it's such a concentrate of everything. And you sit out and you, with seniors like Bidushree Bindani, you dope till 2:30 in the night and with Susu, not Bidushree Bindani. And then discuss and chat cinema in the Monday at 4:30 in the morning with a senior like Pankaj Saxena. These are memorable nights, full nights out into Pune on the bike or walking till you find that Irani joint which is open and have chai maska. And you're still discussing what you've seen that day in the main theatre. This is what is, or you wake up early morning and you walk to Law College and you discuss what you saw last night and why do you hate it and why do you like it. These arguments that you have, these fights that you have with the bongs and the ODIs, though ODIs are not so, expressive,
Articulate, yeah.
articulate, huh? So it was a culmination of that entire journey of
From the
18
time you
years.
used to sit in, go
Yeah.
to FTI when
Yeah.
you were like 7 years old.
Yeah, it was a cycle that got completed.
Amazing. Amazing.
The only thing that the only criticism that I have is the way that they have an archive of films. They don't have a library full of cinema books or books on cinema. That is what is missing in FTI. That was what was missing then. I don't know about now.
But it feels very different. I went more recently and I realized that a place is not made by, by the place by itself. It's made by the people used to
Yeah.
know. Otherwise, that place has no meaning. I mean, just buildings. And I went more recently and some of my batchmates were teaching there and I just felt so out of place, honestly. I mean, I just felt that this is not the place that, because,
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
Even a spot boy who turned the light boy, who is now has lights of his own in Pune, who was then in the FTI, is my friend on Facebook, and we are still in touch.
who was doing lights in FTI when you were a student.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so I cried when Kokje died.
Of course, of course.
Because they were so loving. They'd
Right.
seen me since childhood, going to FTI, and when I joined there, it was a staff. It was Prakash. What was his name? The cigarette wala, the chowkidars,
Yeah, yeah.
who really showered me with love and warmth. I had a call from Kanere, photography professor,
Yeah, of course.
last week.
Okay.
काय
Oh,
म्हणते
wow.
भाऊ कसं काय काय करतोय इंडियामध्ये or any of the professors who reach out to you and ask you ki, what are you doing, how are you, it's a great feeling here.
Yeah, but even I honestly feel that it's more to do with the non-teaching staff in FTI than with the teaching staff. At least in my case, I felt that it was like, because like people that you could generally go to talk with, generally have some chat. I mean, it's a bit. It was a very different world. Now when I went, I just felt that this is not the place. I mean, I realized that this is not the place because the people I knew and everything had changed. And even the people I knew when I was a student who were batchmates with me, now they're teachers there. So the whole attitude and the way they behave on campus is different.
Correct.
Because they can't behave like students, they are now teachers. So, I mean, it becomes a very, like, 'cause when I went, I think almost about 10 years back, and two of my batchmates were in the administrative there, and I saw them pushing paper, and I'm like, boss, this is not, this is not the place I know. And slowly it dies out, I mean, slowly it doesn't stay. It's more to do with the people, because you need everybody there. Otherwise, it doesn't seem the same. I mean, that's my, I mean, understanding
Yeah,
of it.
you're right.
So, and we keep on. I think we keep on hanging on to nostalgia, and we keep on hanging on to things. My criticism of FTI, I think that today, if I had to do it, I wouldn't do a 3-year course personally. I feel that the 1-year course is enough for me, and I need to go out and make films. My that is how I have started looking at that course personally. I feel that you have to go out and make films. You have to keep trying to make films, because I was just talking with somebody the other day, and I suddenly realized that a lot of filmmakers who are right now, I know most of them. It's strange that I know most of them. 5 years back, I didn't know anybody. So it does take 10, 12, 15 years, at least, most times with most people, to make your film. No matter who you are, unless your father is like current, matlab, whatever, Yes Johar or whatever, or Yes
35 years for me.
yeah, for everybody. It's not only you. I mean, even if you look at your own batchmates like Shriram, matlab, around that time over there, Raju and Shriram and Bila and all these people who made films later. I mean, it's Santosh and all that. It still does take, however you are, it still does take a lot of time. It can be 10 years, it can be 35 years, it can be never. So it's very important to, at least I felt that, I when I was there, I felt very few people write. That is the first thing that I felt कि यार, I used to write all the time. And I used to feel, boss, लिखेगा नहीं तो तुम पिक्चर क्या बनाएगे? बैठ के तुम रात भर बैठ के तुम घूम के बाइक पे, I mean, you can discuss a goda or whatever that you want to discuss. I honestly don't care. But at the end of it, after 3 years, you have not written a 20 more. Half of my batch had not written a 20-minute script.
That is, yeah, correct.
Even half of your batch, I'm sure.
No, Jangle Babu's example is the greatest. Rajendra Jangle, great cinematographer, but he was doing a postgraduate diploma in direction. So he was writing with 2 characters, and he used to go and get his whiskey in the evenings. So he was despondent one day. So Pankaj Saxena and he were very close. So he said, क्या हुआ? Jangle Babu क्या हुआ? तो बोले, यार प्रॉब्लम है यार, 2 कैरेक्टर थे, अभी तीसरा कैरेक्टर आ गया यार. लिखते लिखते
तीसरा आ गया. अब क्या करूं?
Kurosawa says the same thing. He says every night his mentor in the studio system told him, write at least 1 scene every day.
Right.
That is also difficult. But unless you practice that, you will not be able to write a feature film script.
No, it's about plonking yourself on a chair and writing. That's the first thing. उसके बाद 15 साल के बाद पिक्चर बनेगा.
Yeah.
So I found it pretty depressing that there are so many people who come and they talk all the time about filmmaking, and nobody writes. तो फिर क्या तुम बड़ा पिक्चर बनो? क्या filmmaker है?
So I was very happy when Anjum started the writing course.
Exactly.
I interacted with some of them. In fact, now I'm writing a series in
With
which
somebody.
There's a writer's room, and there's a guy who's
Right.
passed out from the writing. So it's fantastic to have a writer's course like that.
Actually, I was talking about this with somebody, and I feel that if in the next, I think, 10 years, you will see that most people from the script writing course have actually made films vis-a-vis the direction batch of FTI.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, because if you don't have a script, you're not going to make films. You can sit and chat and and talk all about Bergman and whoever and Kieslowski and whatever and Nolan if you want. But I'm saying you're not going to make films unless you're writing all the time. And this I see, I have not been to too many other film schools either, but I mean, now with my book, I've gone to a few places. But I feel that if you don't write, it's all senseless. This ye sab bakwas about, Bergman kya banata hai aur ye kaun banata hai. I think it's all nonsense. I mean, you need to write.
The flip side of it is that we live in this middle class society, Maharashtrian middle class society, or South Indian middle class society, which says, "तो क्या करता है तू?" मैं क्या? But even now, I've asked this question because I sit at the table and people pass by in Talmakiwadi and watch me writing, sitting there and write. करता क्या है मगर? तो I'm writing something. That
और क्या करते हैं?
हाँ नहीं, वो ठीक है, पर काम क्या करता है?
But that is a choice, na, Ravi.
But calm, so in society, writing is not considered calm. Like in our society, painting is not considered calm.
Because for them, I mean, whoever we are talking with, they are getting up at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, वो डब्बा बना रहा है कोई तो, yeah, even the wives are making their dabbas and then going to banks and working there or working in as CEOs somewhere, whatever that anybody is doing, you know. So for them, for most people, work is like going at a fixed time and coming back at a fixed time. So, but we made that choice a long time back, no, that we are not going to do this. And particularly you, because I think, because that's one point where I've always, said to you is that ye FTI तेरे को stopped you from becoming one of the biggest ad filmmakers in this country, and you went to FTI. But we'll come to that, you know, we'll come to that. And anyway, I think we get so FTI when you've passed out of FTI, so you passed all this and it was a great time and you learned whatever that you learned. What was the immediate thing that happened? You also had a girlfriend there, right?
Yeah,
You married
yeah,
and
yeah.
that was almost immediately after FTA.
Yeah, immediately a year and a half later, it was that. And I found work promptly.
Promptly.
Yeah, because like I told you earlier, knocked on every door. And I found Durga Kode Productions, which was hiring directors.
Oh.
And I found work there. Then I struggled, found work with Pankaj Prasha gave me a documentary on Anil Kapoor to make. So that was work. And then there was Surabhi, a series for Siddharth Kak, and so on. So I was a complete go-getter. I said, "Kaam chahiye, boss."
What I mean, from the way you're narrating yourself so far, you don't seem like a go-getter. No, I'm seriously saying this because I think you don't seem like a go-getter. You seem like someone who's pretty chilled. But what changed? Because this is something which very few people from FTI have.
Even now, I've been in India now for the last 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And I'm at it. I'm pursuing 4 different projects at the same time.
Yeah, I know all that. That's what I'm saying. That when you were out of FTI,
Yeah.
you know, like most people, I mean, in 3 years they'll start teaching or they'll start, a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, a cameraman and sound people you should forget because they get work almost immediately.
But
Everybody else, it's a little tough. Direction and editing, particularly, it's far tougher. So
it was very tough. It was very tough. But I was able to overcome it because of my sheer process of, like a stupid idiot, bang my head on every wall, every door, and trying to open every window. And so I found work. I found quite a bit of work because then I found BBC. Then they were.
No, my question is that how? I mean, because throughout the way you're narrating your life, you don't seem like a go-getter. So what was it? It was the thing that I won't take money from my father, or something that was the driver there which was making you go and knock on doors.
No, I was still taking money from my father because I could not sustain myself. It was quite a few years later that I was able to sustain myself. So I went, like I said, I knocked on doors. So I went and found this project with Jen Narlikar, which is a writing job. Then I found little films, like for Gulanand, I made a film, ad film in those times.
Gulanand is the producer of films
So his door is now.
Sahi Paranjpe films, all the Sahi Katha and.
Yeah. I didn't know Gulanand was all that. I just went to his office because he had an edit room. And I was a smoker, so I was always smoking in the corridor, and I used to bump into Gulanand. And we got talking. And so then he said, "I have this ad film, but I have only so much of money." He said, "Count your fingers before you shake hands with me. I am a Sindhi." कितनी उंगलियां बाकी है ना? Because I'm a Sindhi businessman. And I'm a producer. So anyways, I made that film for him, and then that relationship lasted quite a while. And Pankaj was also making a film for him.
Pankaj
And,
Parashar.
then
Pankaj
Pankaj,
Parashar is from your batch.
much senior, much
Much
senior. So he then put me on to Boni to make. So one thing linked to the other, and I got into the circuit, and then NGOs happened because of. And then I traveled the length and breadth of the country because of BBC and these NGO films. And that was yet another learning and an unlearning of cinema and filmmaking, because I was working with Umatic and Digibeta and Beta.
And then suddenly 35 was not the.
It was there, but off and on.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
that the video had just come in. I mean, and
Yeah,
video was
yeah,
slightly
yeah.
was making it. Now today, though, 35 is gone, and 35 mm, 16 mm is all gone. But you were at just at the inception of video in India.
Yeah, and we had the training television wing. We had that training of ENG,
Yeah, multi-camera
AFP.
and all
yeah,
that,
all
yeah.
that. So they took my project and they taught that particular training, multi-camera and all that with that film.
Wow.
I had made on a poem and a film which was on Kaka, in which Rajat Kapoor and Subhash Avsat acted together.
Kaka?
Kaka is Subhash Avsat, the painter.
Right. Your Kaka. Right.
So that was so then like that. So there a lot of work that happened that didn't come my way. I had to struggle very hard. The only difference between me and the others was that I had so many knocks, those hard knocks of life, and I wanted to make it, and I wanted to have an identity different
From my
my
father.
yeah,
Wow.
and not in the Marathi world, and so
Because very few people, even myself included, I have not fought like the way you're talking to me. कि गया सबके जाके सर मार के आया हर दरवाजे पे. I could never do that. I just don't have that skill set and that talent. I think, मतलब to go and that perseverance actually to go and do it.
yeah.
It takes a lot of perseverance and patience. It's a bit amazing. I mean, to hear this, and then it just started, and then you just kept on doing advertising.
Not advertising. This was more documentaries for NGOs and journalistic reportage for BBC. So a lot of interviews, a lot of what you're doing right now, but with Digivita cameras
Right.
and events to be covered, like the Goa Carnival, which wasn't happening. So I had to actually make the Goa Carnival happen because I had to get paid, because I had to send that file across to Digivita across to BBC.
What is this story?
There were a lot of events that had happened in the earlier carnival. So there was a large group of people, of the populace. And
Bad events that had happened.
A lot of intellectuals were against the carnival. So the guys who made the floats and were doing the carnival, in the minds of the populace were the organized and the unorganized crime of Goa. And so they were not meant to be given that leeway this time. So the carnival was off, and I was there with the crew. And so what I did, so I had to now rig up that carnival. I had to convince these people to. So I said, I will shoot all of you and I'll portray all your point of views, but have the carnival.
So that carnival actually happened because of you.
Not because of me, because the intellectuals were also talking to each other. The church was talking to the mayor. And as things happen in Goa, the tide can turn whichever way, whenever. And it turned in my favor. But I played a major part in that. So it got delayed by 8 days. And all those 8 days I was staying there and pursuing matters.
Just so that you could get paid. And then what happened? I mean, then you somehow got into advertising, right? I mean,
No, advertising happened much later. Then I started.
oh, advertising happened much later.
Yeah. Much later. I have done advertising only for some 13 or 14 years. That's it. I was not in advertising. I used to make corporate films. So a lot of corporate films is what I made. Then the Maharashtra tourism searched me out because Dilip Padgaonkar, who's the Times of India editor,
Yeah.
told the then chairman of MTDC ki you should seek this man out. There was a Mehta, one guy called Mehta, arrogant fellow but lovely guy, who had married a Sinhalese princess.
Wow.
So he was loaded by intellectual. That's why Padgaonkar was his friend. So he searched me out, and one day I was in Goregaon Sai Baba complex. My phone rang and said MTDC. So I thought it was some corporation, like, as in a corporate, MTDC. I didn't know what it stood for, the acronym. So Maharashtra Tourism. So I went and met him, and then one film happened. Then the bomb blast happened.
93.
Yeah, blasts happened. Then I was again called in to make a film which will go to all the consulates of the world to say, Baba, Bombay is back to normal, please come back, do business. So that film happened. Then I didn't make as much money on the film as I made on the copies, number of copies.
Right.
So one thing led to another. Then I met Manju Singh and Jyot Singh. And I did case studies of women called Adhikar. Then I did love story with them. Then I did some corporate for them. So that was a lovely period with Network 7, their company. That was quite an experience. Then I did something called You Love Stories for ZTV. With Ravi, Harshay and Yatin and Sachin and all that. And then, so one thing rolled into another, and we used to live 1 month to month, like it happens to us FTINs. And my place was filled with friends and books and DVDs and videos, and that one flat grew into 2 flats, but they're still on rent. And so there was a DVD room, and so a viewing room in which there's a large TV.
अच्छा ये सब बनाया था उधर.
हाँ, फिर उधर खिड़की में से ऐसे बाहर चिल्लाते थे, ए रसूल है. Rasul and Verma used to stay next doors, next building, but adjacent. So we could shout at each other. Shantanu Mukherjee was staying in front of us. See, it was quite an extended hostel, the Sai Baba complex.
Yeah. Even today, I think there are a lot of
So but there were 7 keys to my flat with 7 different friends.
Achha, anybody could come anytime.
But in between, I forgot that I got divorced with my first wife. And
Okay.
so that was quite sad. So after that, I took to the bottle.
How long did this marriage last?
7 years.
7 years.
7
Why do you think
years
it failed?
each.
I mean, what could have been the...
See, it was a tough period. We started with the kerosene stuff in Tarapur Gardens. The parents were having a problem. We concentrated on bringing up the other 2 children, her sister and brother. And so as we took care of these responsibilities and other things, we moved apart. And so then there was an assistant of mine, who had acted in my diploma. So she went and met him, then she married him, and they have a lovely daughter. They have a lovely life in Bangalore. And then it took 10 years of binging for me. For me to then feel that, oh no, I'm in love. Again. Because I kept searching.
Because you are a very family man. I mean, that's what...
Oh, I was a wild man. I'm known as a wild man.
No, you may be known as a wild man, but in general, the way... Because I've seen you very closely with your family. I mean, so I feel that it's very important for you. This whole... The family structure somehow is very important to you.
Yes, it is.
In spite of I don't know where that comes from, but it's like you may have been wild, but it's once it's set in, and once you found the right person in your second marriage, then everything this it was just this wildness was just an excuse
Yeah.
for for finding the family.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Like
Or
I said, I was in search. So every relationship was a search. Is this what is right? Is this going to be a relationship? Is this? Till I meet this woman and I meet her here, Nilab's terrace, on the 31st night. How cliched can it be? And I fall in love within the first 5 seconds. And to date, I look at her and that's a the heart thumbs out. So now it's been 20 years. So
and it still thumbs out.
yeah, even on the video call, it still thumbs out. So that's how it
That's
is.
so cute, yeah, Ravi.
So then writing happened, and along with that writing, some films of Santosh happened, like Hello, in which I was assisting him. Then music video that I assisted him on camera.
All right.
And then he came up with this that Ravi, you know how to write. So this is Ashoka. This is the idea, and you do what you want. You write a script. So then I traveled and I researched Ashoka. Then I came to know this ugly man called Ashoka up close, and he's the horriblest human being that I've ever met. I researched
really?
him. Yeah, I went to Hyderabad to research him. Then I went to Orissa. Then found some books, lots of books. I discovered Rajneesh also along the process, along this path. And then I realized that yes, I'm liking this writing bit. So there's some 16, 17 drafts of the script happened. Then I remember we met, I think it was Sunny Deol, went all the way to Kolaba, that Sea Rock Hotel, or whatever hotel there is. And he said, nahi, idhar na, in the palace, you should have like Sita or Gita, twins. I was blown. I said, after all this research and after all this writing, so many drafts, an actor is telling me to plant Sita or Gita in characters in this. I stopped writing. Then,
Stop writing Ashoka.
yeah. Then Santosh took Saket and wrote that. But by then I had already written Hello and, not Hello, I had written Malli and Terrorist. Terrorist was like an extension of my diploma film. My diploma film was about the Indira Gandhi assassination, as to what had happened to the common man because of that assassination. How the whole of India got stumped and was in doldrums and sad. How people got incited to violence, to infighting. That was my diploma. So an extension of that was the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, which is terrorist, the bomber.
Right.
So it was nice. There was nice film. Then Malli, then Ashoka. All along Ashoka was happening all through. And then came. Then Santosh said that see, if you have to survive. Because I didn't earn a pie out of writing all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Even on
he says-
Ashoka?
Yeah, I got a high-end camera from Bobby Chawla. Bobby Chawla was the producer.
Shah Rukh the producer of
Yeah,
Ashoka?
so Shah Rukh's producer was Bobby Chawla.
Was Juhi Chawla's brother?
Yeah, correct. So Bobby gave us a high-end camera.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I was happy with that because I don't regret any of those writing because each one was an experience. And to write with Santosh, who's so free of mind, is a wonder in itself. To just write alongside him. He'll write poetry on the flight and come and say, see here, you read this and see if you can construct a scene. He'll write some Zen poems and say, can we do something? So it was a beautiful experience. So I didn't get, so Santosh said, "Ki, see, the only solution for you is now that you have to earn some money," because he was staying with me by then.
Right.
Several years we stayed together in
Oh, really?
Cyber Complex, yeah. Where he bought his flat in Andheri, in Lokhandwala, but he was still staying with me. So he said, "You please do advertising." So I said, "All right." So I cut a reel.
Of all that you've done, BBC and all that.
BBC stuff I didn't have because it was material that I shoot and it used to go there to Pebble Mill Studios. So all the corporate stuff and all that, I cut a reel and I started, like earlier I was knocking on all the doors. Now I knew that I have to knock only on advertising doors, advertising agencies. So I started doing that rigorously. And it took 2.5 years to crack it. And that process started. Just before that, I had met Swati. So I knew that I had to earn money. Otherwise, how will I marry this woman? How will she marry? Because she was already in a marriage.
Okay.
And but it was a broken marriage already then. It was a sad marriage. It was. She was not happy with it. And so I did advertising till 2004, 2003, 2004 when Aditya Bhattacharya's script came by my side to write Dubai Return. So I started to write that. And I said, why don't I continue to write? But it till 2012 or 13, till we met, I was still toying with the idea. I was spending time with Praveen Tokekar and other writers and Sanjay Nair and trying to write a script. Those scripts that I wrote then, 10 years back, 12 years back, 15 years back, are valid today.
Exactly.
And hence
that's
I've
how
come.
it happens.
And hence I'm here, sitting in front of you in Bombay.
Yeah, because you otherwise shifted to Australia actually.
Yeah. And in Australia too, I used to write. I've written a series. And there people used to ask me, because there people are far removed from the reality of Bollywood or filmdom. They used to say, but tu
Karta kya hai?
Haan, karta hai. So I said, I write and that will get realized. That's okay, but that will happen. But what work do you do? That is not
So
work.
it's the same question which you're getting in Tardev. In Australia also, these are the questions don't change.
Yeah. What is work? But this is not work.
It's strange, that people ask you this question in Bombay. So imagine if you just go to Panvel, because Bombay is the film industry, and people still ask you, what do you do? If you're writing, what do you do? Panvel से आगे तो मतलब आप चले जाओ बिहार तक तो people will say, क्या है ये? क्या कोई काम है क्या ये भाई? Are you an IS?
So after Aditya Bhattacharya's Dubai Return is when I started to research Pradakshina, which is on the sugar cooperative movement of Maharashtra and the politics of Maharashtra of the last 35 years.
Right.
So that journey continues to date.
Right. But advertising by itself, did it make you monetarily comfortable or did it?
See, I'm a bad businessman. I had a fear of banks from my childhood. So I've gone to a bank only when my wife dragged me for a loan of the house that we have. And probably 4 or 5 times more. That's it. In the last 30 years.
That's all that you've gone to a bank?
Yeah, I've had an accountant to handle all that.
Yeah.
तिकडे बसा ही सही बरोबर नाही आहे ह्या लाईनच्या खाली करा. So I was very scared because I've witnessed this when I was a child. So I'm very scared of banks.
Wow, this is something really bizarre. Yeah. So as a child, when somebody used to say sign here and do it down here, that thing has traumatized you so much that you have not visited a bank. Like you visited only 4 or 5 times in 30 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because it's very way that they treat you like that there. So,
SBI probably, the state banks probably.
Bank of India. Bank of India.
Bank of India.
On Karve Road. in those
Very
times.
डर लगता है. I have a Bank of Maharashtra account. I get scared to ask for my own money there.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't ask them a question. They treat you like shit.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually happens. You're right, but I mean that's true. I have a current account in Bank of Maharashtra. They treat you like what? कौन है तू? मतलब
So I can make a budget and I can make a film to that budget exact. But then after that you ask me
पैसा किधर है?
कि नहीं पैसे का क्या करना है, तो it's लिया दिया like that story.
That what was that accountant's name? Who did that liya diya?
I've-
Strange name he had.
Yeah.
Nanu something.
So I did. So financial stability came, but then I started to do this, which Swati supported me, which is script writing, which is research, which is going out to some other place, to Dapoli or wherever, to sit and write. Because here the advertising was too demanding. You have to be alive and on call all the
Totally.
time.
Yeah. And then 20 people have a view. That's the worst thing about advertising.
And you're
actually.
catering to
For a 30-second film,
Yeah.
20 people have a view.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
You have
terrible.
to cater to that.
And you have to cater to that if you want to be successful there.
Yeah.
Because the money is really big. So, I mean,
Yeah. So then so it was a natural tapering of advertising business, because I wanted to go where I feel comfortable.
right.
And hence that career dwindled to a knot. Advertising career dwindled to a knot. I was still doing projects on and off. I was doing some campaigns, some digital stuff, but it did not sustain us. And Swati could see the frustration that I was going through, because I could not go and sit in front of an executive who doesn't know that A stands for Apple and F stands for film. So because it's like I said, we've learned the grammar, and we practice that, and we also know how to unlearn it. And
I don't think everybody knows, but at least you know. I mean, so, yeah.
I suppose everybody's learned. Yeah. Whoever's been a practicing filmmaker,
Absolutely.
day
They have
in,
learned.
day out, has learned that and has
learned that.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then to form a new your kind of a
Any
film.
medium, that's
For example, in advertising, it was a great effort for me to tell them, "Yeah, I know that guy that you're talking about. That's a middle class bloody guy. That's a consumer. I know that guy in Patna because I've gone to Patna. I know that guy in Jaipur. I've been with him. I know his profile. I know how he speaks. And so I want to portray him and not your aspirational executive. So it was a huge fight. I fought it for 8 or 9 years. It was a huge fight to bring a normal lens in advertising. In those times, it was unheard of to get in a wide angle or to have a 60-second single take, to have a mezzoscene.
absolutely.
It was unheard of, and to say, okay, you guys see this, and I will show you also in cuts. I'll show you in a normal lens with natural lighting, and I will show you something which is glossy, and you take a call and tell me which one you want. Slowly, advertising changed. That is my only achievement in advertising. That a few years back, 7 years back, there's a guy who was a creative director who's now shooting advertising films, big guy, who said, "Ki Ravi, we are making films like you used to make." Which is where you've taken off the glam
Right.
and shown the real. Because I feel that when you portray the real, then you'll reach across to that consumer more honestly. Which means that brand is more honest. The perception of the brand will change. And that advertising film will fetch you better revenue, or at least awareness for that brand. I tried it 8-9 years, but then I gave up because I didn't see the point in that.
So this giving up,
Yeah.
does this have to do anything with going to FTI? I mean, Do you see it that way? Because I have always felt, okay, because I come from MBA background. I mean, so I can see a perfect, personality wise, craft wise, that a ad filmmaker, very successful ad filmmaker like Ram Madhwani and whoever those big names are. I'm saying that you had that potential to be that, but I am sure, like, and I know I have friends who are very big in advertising right now, and at least उन लोग इतना confused नहीं रहते about anything. They do whatever, and they get paid a shitload of money for that, and that's it. So they are not like confused कि मुझे कुछ ऐसा कुछ तोड़ के कुछ करना है या something. They generally not like that. Maybe once in a while they'll get excited about a script. Most times advertising scripts are also about selling the brand more than, it's
exactly.
nothing about that.
Yeah.
So they are saying, अच्छा ठीक है, तुमको ये चाहिए, ठीक है, because बाद में वो जब चलता नहीं है, then the guys will tell you कि तुम्हारी वजह से हुआ.
Yeah.
So all that is there. So in your case, for example, did the FTI thing that you went there, because we know what FTI, how generally.
No, I think it's when you say.
So that confusion. My question is that confusion
No,
about
this is not a
what cinema is and how it should be.
No,
not confusion. I'm not confusion is the wrong word, but that whole idea of how cinema is and how cinema should be. Did that somewhere have any bearing on the way your advertising career went?
No, I will rephrase the question.
Okay.
You're saying that you nearly made it big.
Okay.
I'm saying I never really wanted myself to be big.
Exactly.
One second, so let me explain.
Okay.
None of my films, documentary, journalistic effort, or advertising films, have I put in for awards. None of the films.
Never.
I have never come. I used to not like to do celebrity advertising or advertising for, let's say, Fair and Lovely or this, that stuff. I have veered away from it. I have never gone to events such as the launch of a film, premiere of a film. I don't want to be seen with celebrities. I have celebrity friends.
Lots of them, from what I know.
Yeah, but they are normal when they meet me. They are not celebrities when they meet me. They're normal human beings. So I don't want to be. So I've veered away from any fame. Fortune I didn't veer away from. So fortune is coming my way. But any sort of a fame, publicity, the kind that you hear other people do, and which is quite evident all over, I've always veered away from that. And hence, this is a process of evolution. So yes, FTI is a part of my evolution and my change to leave advertising and to start doing fiction. But I haven't completely left advertising either, because now I might be doing some ad films for a Delhi client. So
No, obviously. But
So I think it's a question of change that has to occur as you experience the world, as you grow older, and you realize that where does your heart lie? What do you want to do that'll satisfy you? Which is writing a story, which is telling a story. Telling a story with, like I was saying, film is a potpourri. It's a bhed, it's a mixture. It's an amalgamation of all the arts, which is music, graphics, audio. So you want to tell a story with all these elements together. You want to tell a story. I'm not saying cinema. You're talking about cinema. So I've not evolved and come to that stage where I'll talk about cinema. I'm talking about film, feature films. I'm talking about OTT platforms. I'm talking about storytelling.
right.
And my currency right now is the stuff that I wrote so many years back. So here I am.
Yeah, but writing, I mean, that's how it is. Like, you know the story that I made a film called Vartak Nagar. We were writing it for 9 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
5 years, Kunal Kohli tried to get it funded. It didn't happen. And one fine day it started. There's the second film which I'm making. We wrote it. First idea I had it when I quit the bank, sitting in Prithvi before FTI.
Yeah.
It's getting made now. So, I mean, that process is long. But I think my question, and I think you've got it, but probably we are on different pages on this. I'm just saying that the reason why you also didn't want to be big is also because the way you understand, because a lot of advertising film directors don't have these kind of questions in their heads. They do it, they make their money, and वो बाकी जो करने का है वो करते रहते हैं. जो because even someone like Ram Madhwan is taken so many years to make a film, and one of the biggest art film directors in the country. So it's not easy to get to make a film, even if you become a very big. So you need to focus on one thing to get that. That's how it is.
You say no and shut the door, only then will another door open.
Absolutely. That's what it is. That unless you try something new is not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Unfortunately, I mean, that's how it is. So we were also on talking about this, film versus other kinds of arts.
Yeah.
Because, and my view on this is pretty clear on this, that films just take too much money to make.
Yes.
I mean, other than the potpourri that it is.
Yeah.
So there will always be, because I know people who talk all the time about, how it's art and all that, but they won't put 10 paisa from their own pocket to make a film. They'll still be looking around कि किसी और को government से पैसा लो, इससे लो, उससे लो. Boss, if you believe so much in filmmaking, then sell your house and make a film.
Correct.
But most people will not do it, including me. I'm saying that it has to be. So that's why film will always stay a very commercial venture. Other than the fact that obviously it's a potpourri, and it's obviously there are like if I'm doing a painting, then I'm all alone and I can do what I want, and it doesn't cost as much to paint as it costs to not even a fraction of what it costs to make a film.
Yes.
So that will always be the. What's your view on this?
Yes, that is an empirical statement. So there can't be another point of view about it. You're right that it is a commercial venture. The moment that you don't have government funding and you have money from the market, the moment you say money from the market, it is commerce. You're transacting business, and in that transacting business, you have to be sure that you are doing a film and not cinema. But for that, you have to evolve and come to that understanding and say, okay, I want to make a film. I want people to see, maximum number of people to buy tickets and come and see it.
Right.
I want
because
this
that's the most democratized way of filmmaking. Because if 2 crore people have seen your film, obvious, and they've liked it or disliked it, but 2 crore people have seen your film.
Yeah.
So.
And they have to see it again and again. It's like Kundan's
Jaane Bhi Do Yaro.
Yeah.
Or even Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na. I love Kabhi Na.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a better, more romantic film than Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na. But that's how it is, and I find this is a very film school discussion. When you actually come to Bombay,
star system helps.
Yeah, and when you come to Bombay, you don't hear this discussion at all.
No, so you have to evolve. You have to evolve.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Exactly what I find missing when you go to film school. That's what I said, that I don't want to spend 3 years in film school. I mean, in the first year itself, like there's a TV course, I feel like you're making 8 films in that 1 year. You made those films. Whether you want to learn, you don't. And nowadays, I think it's also changed is because all those films that we were seeing in film school, now you can just see them at your home in high quality. So that whole idea of cinema, earlier to tumko jana hi hai film school mein. FTI nahi jaoge to you can't see those films.
Deviated from cinema a long time back. Also, the 30-second commercial is dead. It is digital. Everything is, like you said, high definition. You can see everything that you've seen at FTI. The third thing is that technology is dictating storytelling right now.
Right.
So it is that learning process in a film school is no longer valid. So a lot of friends, kids who come to me, or a lot of kids who come to me, I say, don't go to film school. Technology changes, your storytelling changes. Now everybody is making a 3-minute video for Instagram or YouTube, because everybody's realized your attention span is that much.
Yeah.
30 seconds. That too, vertical and horizontal.
Absolutely. Vertical trailer.
Yeah.
There is something called as a vertical trailer for your mobile phones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And TVs are kept like that and engineered like that too. Yeah. So it's changing. What is the Unreal Engine? Now I'm using Unreal Engine for my feature, the supernatural feature. So I've done a course in Unreal Engine. Now, so you're using technology, you're using plates, and you're changing your storytelling so that you can use that technology, but you can only use that technology up to a certain extent. But that is dictating your storytelling, it's molding your script. So you have to be open to that. You have to be like you have to be open to commerce, you have to be open to the star system because that supports and helps your storytelling.
Yeah.
Again, I'm saying storytelling and film, I'm not saying cinema.
And I think this whole frustration about I'm not going to get to make what I want was you first become somebody, then you get to make what you want. You just don't get to make what you want anywhere, even in your own home.
Yeah, you have to pay your dues.
Yeah, you have to pay your dues.
Yeah,
There's always
absolutely.
this whole time thing that is there, and it's going to take so much time. Like I realized this with this film which I'm making, my second film which I'm making, and it's like, this was like the producer has heard it like 6 years back, had read it, but it stuck with him. And after 6 years, he's saying, I want to do this. Now I'm in a position. And I have not met the actors. 2 actors have been cast without meeting them. So this whole funda works around this principle of who has the power and how it's getting done. You want to do what you want. You better prove yourself. तुम 5 का 25 बनाएगा तभी people will say हाँ ठीक है तुमको जो करना है करो. उससे पहले if you keep cribbing about I'm not getting to do what you want, and you sell your house and you make the film.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Or maybe your father is in the government. I mean, that's another way. That's another. There's one thing which I think which we didn't talk about, which is that your experience with Roland Joffe, like Killing Fields, and you worked with someone like that.
No, but I didn't work with him.
I wrote something for him.
Yeah, I wrote a script. It took quite a while to write. It was a day-night effort. Went to Dina in Maharashtrian and day-night I was going to the loo with the laptop.
Oh, really?
Desperate it was. And then I narrated it to him for over 2.5 days in that.
How did this Roland Joffe come about? I mean, how did you end up here?
See, this is something that a guy who's no longer alive, Ajay Zandkar,
Okay.
had written Marathi, but he wrote it like a novel. He didn't know film structure. So I had to break it down into a film structure which will be palatable to somebody like Joffe and absorb it and then react to it. For him to then say, okay, now let me take this over and redo it in whichever way that he deems fit. So I narrated it to him, and all those places where I thought a filmmaker of his repute would comment were not the places that he commented, and his comments are very, like I said earlier, sadak chhap, pedestrian, and I was shocked. And that was also a learning that you put everybody on a pedestal too fast.
Right.
You like something and you put that guy on the pedestal. Maybe filmmaking is about a team effort, not just that individual. It's not author game anymore. And if you have the right team, then you can have a film that works. That's why I said that the star system works for a film to work, or even a OTT platform to run a successful series. But the team also helps a lot.
Of course.
And it is probably because of the team that a lot of successful things happen.
Of course. And this is where film schools help. It is largely about, say, something like for me, I went to FTI, and that is why I have this team. Like the same people, like Sudhakar Reddy has shot my films, and Sudhir has always edited it, and Dara Singh has done my sound for almost all my work so far. These are all my friends from FTI. I can call them and they adjust for you, because sometimes you don't have the kind of money that they normally charge. And this is probably the biggest takeaway for me from film school, rather than all the other things that one talks about. So
Similar to yours, but my experience is also the opposite. I've worked with more than 98 cameramen, DOPs, from different countries as well as from different backgrounds. Not just FTI, Whistling Woods,
Barabar.
Ramoji Film School, whatnot, Chennai. In Africa, I was working with students who had just passed out. ऐसा सब तो but everything is an enriching experience because you bonding for that project. and you have to carry that team forward with that vigor, with that energy, with that commitment and passion. So you have to inspire that team, and you have to carry them together with you. That journey is always fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, of course. That is obviously there. वो तो पूरा एक फिल्म का जो गेम है वो वही तो है. And there's this one thing which you mentioned somebody, okay, Sudhanshu Mishra,
Susu,
Susu or whatever. I mean, I have heard his name in a different context. That Is Raat Ki Subah Nahi was based on a true event which happened with him. Is that true? What was the story?
See, there are a lot of events that, because Sudhanshu was he used to read a lot. He had a point of view about everything. He was an intellectual. He had an IQ of some, I don't know what. Yeah. Brilliant he was. So a lot of what Sudhir does is also influenced because of Sudhanshu. Though I think Sudhanshu is the younger brother and Sudhir is the elder brother. I forget that. And he was wild. He was wild because he could, even before you completed the sentence, he knew the context within which you were speaking. And
He's there, right? Even now.
no, he died of
Okay.
overdose, brown sugar, and all sorts of
Overdose.
things. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, that and several other events form different planks of stories for Sudhir as well as for a lot of filmmakers. Yeah. Because he would make each event colorful and rich.
In the narration. He was a very interesting guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But what I wanted to say is that Israt Ki Subah Nahi, the story, I mean, just about what we have heard so far. I've heard it from different sources, this thing. Israt Ki Subah Nahi is the story of a normal guy who ends up in a bar and he just ends up slapping this guy in a fight. And then he realizes that this guy is one of the biggest gangsters in town. And then the whole night, this gangster is, is chasing this guy to kill him. It was Nirmal Pandey and Ashutosh
It's also the influence of Noir.
Noir. But this has happened actually with Sudhanshu Mishra, who was Sudhir Mishra's brother.
Yeah.
And then Sudhir Mishra went ahead and he made this film called Is Raat Ki Subah Nahi with Nirmal Pandey.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and whatever those
Because the other thing about Sudhanshu, which people used to find obnoxious, is that he had this snorty laugh. He would look down upon everybody.
Is it?
Sarcastic, snorty laugh. Chuckle and laugh.
He was your batch.
No, he is my senior.
He's a senior.
And which people would be accosted by that. And feel belittled by that. And that's one of the reasons that he beats up that guy and then that guy chases him. And he used to get drunk, but it would take a bottle to get him drunk.
That high, that much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've smuggled a bottle into his Delhi house through his window. To not let his parents know about it.
And there's a social work thing that you talked about. I mean, you still do a lot of social work. I mean, it's...
Yes, I do. I'm associated with two social work organizations. And so I don't physically do the documentaries myself, but I see a lot of post-production. I see a lot of campaign design. I see do a lot of writing work for them. It's been going on for so many years, ever since the institute. But I don't talk about it. But I don't talk about myself. This is the longest I've spoken about myself.
Yeah. It's been interesting. And this is what I asked you, I mean, when the cameras were off, is that, Ravi, you're this nice, good-looking guy. So did it happen ever that you were offered, after FTI, before FTI, obviously you acted in a lot of films as a kid and all that you were offered a film, just because and all this advertising or ये सब कर रहा है, लोगों से मिल रहा है. बोला, रवि तू हीरो बन जा.
नहीं.
कभी नहीं हुआ.
Nobody said.
And you said the only person who's offered me a film is you. Actually, and I didn't remember this, but I had made a film called Savior for MTV and for Corner to Love Reels, which was produced by Kunal Kohli. And in that there was a role
Of a
and I had
drunk.
gone to Ravi. And I think his wife said that you can't play this role. It was of a drunkard uncle or something. And his wife didn't allow him to play it. That's what he told me. I'd forgotten about this completely.
Yeah.
It was finally played by Kamal Adeeb. I think
Yeah.
that's what eventually
No,
happened.
I was open to doing it, but Swati said, no, I don't want to see you as, I don't want people to see you as a drunken uncle in a wedding.
So, yeah, but one of your uncles was an actor who I think Babu Kaka you said.
Ramchandra Rao Deshpande
So it runs
was
in
a
the family.
theater actor, and he used to act as a female with a sari and kunku and all that.
Because this is in the 40s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Oh, he was he was a professional for a long time he was acting.
Whenever he could get a chance, till he shifted to Hyderabad. When he was in
Acha.
Bombay, he used to do all that.
Oh,
He's-
and then
he
women
has-
also started acting actually. So he must,
Yeah.
women started acting
Yeah.
as women, so he must have
So
lost out in the
his-
parts.
Yeah, so his grandson, his daughters, he had 4 sons and 1 daughter. His grandson now has acted in a Telugu film.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
As a lead?
as one of the leads. He stars in, what is it called? I think Rowdy Boys or something, Telugu film, which was a hit.
Which was a hit.
Yeah, so he's going that way. Not his grandson, his great grandson.
So I'm just wrapping this up now, but with this one final, and you should please take your time to answer this, is that your own relationship with your father was I mean, you've learned a lot from him, and you ended up as a good friend, and and whatever. It was all. It seemed like a mixed bag and you're always trying to prove that I am distinct from my father. That's been your struggle all your life. That's I think the thing about this conversation that we're having, and I never knew this. I think that's what I find amazing about when I'm conversing with people, is that I find stories which I know you for at least 15-20 years, and I would have never guessed that this is your backstory, because we have never talked like this. And
Because this podcast, let me speak about your podcast, is like like they have therapy, no? It's a session. It's a session with a psychologist. So a lot of things emerge which are at the bottom and they rise up to the
But
bottom. level.
I have realized that I can sit and listen to people, which is like a huge thing. No, but my point was this. That is, how has it translated, this experience of yours? How has it translated with the experience of how you dealt with your own children? You have 2 sons, right? One is 19 and one is 14. And one of your sons is trying to be a swimmer, right? I mean,
No, he was an athlete earlier
okay.
and now he's studying sports science,
Okay.
physical science.
Your elder son.
Yeah, to learn.
Okay. But how has this, what is the difference in which you are dealing with your own children vis-a-vis what?
See, what happens is that what I reacted to in my adolescent time to my father's, the change in my father's attitude or his personality, that has changed. I'm no longer stretching that adolescence into my 50s.
Barabar.
So I have a different interpretation of that. And that is reflecting on me as a parent. So I'm not doing what my father would have done, even though I'm changing. I like I said, everything is about transition, about changing. Every 10 years you change. It's like Igaro Mile. Every 10 miles, Igaro Mile is this film made by Mahadev Shi on Baul singers, which Dilip Verma, Ranjan Palat, all these people have shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a beautiful film that every 10 miles the music changes, language changes. In Bengal.
Oh my God.
They've shot this years ago.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, so for me, I feel a man changes every 10 years. So if you see, let's say the India today with Rajiv Gandhi's face and how he changed over a span of time. So there are photographs on the cover. I still remember that cover. And you can see the transformation because portraits speak so much. So hence I have also changed over the years. Time changes you. And with that change has come a change in the perception of my father's behavior. And with that has come a change in me as I should appear with my children and the freedom that I should give my children to rebel as they want to and to do whatever they want to. So, because nobody teaches us parenting. As middle class Indians, we don't know parenting. We have children and then we rear children. We do exactly what our fathers and mothers did to us, is what we duplicate in our behavior with the children without thought, without translating the experience of so many years into a learning and applying it. That is all. So, not just books, but the learnings from my father is what I'm trying to apply.
So how is it translating? I mean, how do your children look at you? I mean, if you had to evaluate it yourself, instead of asking them, if I'm asking you this question, how do your children look at you differently from the way you used to look at your father when you were 19?
Yes, I think they do. For one, they introduced me to their friends. And this is my dad. He used to grow weed in his hostel room. Oh, whatever. Jokes aside, it's made a tremendous difference in them becoming more independent and maturing faster and carrying forth values and not traditions, but values, human values, morals, without religion being a base
Yeah, yeah.
or a foundation or traditions being a base कि ये करना ही पड़ेगा.
क्योंकि ये ट्रेडिशन,
हाँ, ये करना
सही है गलत है मैटर नहीं करता है. उससे अच्छा तुम सिर्फ सही गलत देखो ना.
हाँ, question
Right.
without forming language as a foundation. You do what you want. You want the YouTube language, fine. You want the Aussie language, fine. You need not speak your mother's language, Saraswat Amchi. Fine, it's okay. Marathi, your father's language, fine. You don't want to read books anymore, fine. But you know for sure that you have to evaluate yourself before you act. And such endless stuff, because parenting is an endless exercise. It's a day and night effort. Like marriage is a day and night effort.
Yeah. That's why I've stayed away from it. No, I mean, it's of course you can get married if you meet the right person, but
Yes, exactly.
that's a process again.
No, I have great hopes for you.
You have hopes for me.
Yes.
Oh my God. So, so Ravi, this was such a fantastic conversation. I mean, and I think we just kept on, going from one end to the other. And this is the most mixed up episode that I've done.
Pendulum. Dr. Bendra's pendulum.
This is the most mixed up episode. Matlab, there is no linearity to this episode at all. And I think in the second half of it, I tried to make it a little more linear. But I think the first part was like completely and it was still very interesting. And it's been I've known you for so many years, and it was such a fantastic conversation to have, because I think I didn't know almost 90% of what it was, and what my own podcast amazes me about is that people have these fantastic stories, I mean, it still amazes me that I love doing this now, because people have fantastic stories which you have known them for like decades, and you still don't know their stories and why they have reached where they have. And thank you so much. That's so much for this conversation. Really, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I hope कि people will now shut the podcast and say बहुत bore किया साले ने.
No, I'm sure they'll ask for a sequel probably. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about if there's a sequel? If they go.
I'll talk about migrants.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I drop a new episode every Friday night at around 10 p.m. I will also end this and every episode by recommending a film or a web series. But before that, here is a small message on how you can help to keep this podcast alive and growing. This episode is free and we intend to keep it that way. But it does take a lot of time, money and effort to produce the show. We research, write, record, and edit before we finally present it to you. So if you wish to support our effort, you can help us produce the show by contributing any amount you wish on our website, conversationswithatul.com. Please note that the word conversations is plural with an S. So do visit conversationswithatul.com. And here is my film reco. The film I recommend today is The Apartment. Written by I.A.L. Diamond and Billy Wilder, this Billy Wilder comic romantic drama is the story of an insurance clerk who tries to rise within his organization by letting his bosses use his apartment for their extramarital flings. Problems arise when he falls in love himself. The Apartment was nominated for a record 10 Oscars and won 5, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay. The Apartment clocks a secure 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Do watch if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter by following my Twitter handle Atul Taishete, spelled as ATULTAISHETE. Also, do visit my website Conversations, that is Conversations plural with an S. The complete website address is conversationswithatul.com. So see you next Friday at 10 p.m. with a different guest, a new episode and a fresh conversation right here on Conversations with Atul. Have a rocking fun week and stay safe. Thank you.